Because I'm coming for them belts, boy. You're going to see the raft of the new champ. Different energy, different spirit. Coming to win. I tried to learn boxing, stick and move. Isolating the sweet science of the sport, doctrinating my style. But we're going back to the raw, rugged streets. That's where I belong. I never followed no athletes growing up, no movie stars. I followed the hustlers, the Rayful Edmonds, the Jeff Ports, the Nicky Barnes, the Big Meaches, the Larry Hoovers. You understand me? They're the people that gave me the inspiration, the ones that came up from the streets to the top of the world, the empires, the bangers, the hustlers.
I think you were talking about the pandemic there. Have you changed, you think, as a boxer or as a person during it?
100%. Like, when I first started boxing, my whole world just flipped on its head. Like, I had to really step my game up and adapt to this new environment. And then, so imagine I'm upside down now, and the whole world's moving at 100 miles an hour, so it's a bit of a whirlwind. And then with the pandemic, the whole world flipped on its head, which gave me a chance to now look up again. So I flipped on my head when I first started boxing. Then during the pandemic, where the world's flipped on its head, it's allowed me to resurface again. And I feel like in life, you always need to reset sometimes and go back to what the true meaning of what you're doing is, why you're doing it, reset with who you are, what your values are, and the pandemic's helped me do all that.
What we got here? The throwback lumberjack workout. AJ chopping the wooden block. What? Oh, God. He's just created the modern boxing equivalent of Excalibur. Forget sword in the stone. We've got the axe in the log. AJ.
We're in McDonald's. There's one question to ask. Who wants a fucking burger? Yeah! Got people on my phone that I haven't spoken to for 10 years. If I rang them up and said, look, there's 5 blokes outside my front door, can you come and help me? They'd be here. You know, so I've got plenty of people that would help me. Sounded a bit like countryside, that one. Okay. Nice laid back Essex vibe. Well done. Okay. Bit lazy, that one. Terrible. Big John here. I'm at the TalkSport offices in central London, and I'm going to rate people's bosses. We'll see if they're any good or not. Bosh! Bosh!
Bosh.
Nice laid back Essex vibe. Well done. Bosh! Bosh. Okay.
I don't need to save money. I want to put on good fights. So that was a good fight for DAZN. So I'm disappointed. But what is the point in signing up for drug testing if when you fail, everyone just goes, oh, don't worry about it, just let him fight, you know? Yeah. So, and the argument of, well, it's all right with UKAD is totally irrelevant. You've signed drug testing with VADA, the best testing agency, in my opinion, in the sport.
On Saturday night, I'll be listening to Usyk versus Joshua exclusively live on TalkSport while I'm enjoying my Saturday night Chinese. Special fried rice, bosh. Special chow mein, bosh. Sweet and sour chicken balls, bosh. Sweet and sour chicken Hong Kong style, bosh. Salt and chili king prawn, bosh. Salt and chili chicken, bosh. Barbecue spare ribs, bosh. Roast pork Chinese style, bosh. Crispy aromatic duck, bosh. Chips, bosh. Prawn crackers, bosh. Curry sauce, bosh.
Like that, and because you outboxed the fucking best boxer in the world for rounds, you beat him at his own game. Your game plan was perfect. Perfect. He nicked it just at the end. He nicked it at the end. He was stopping around. That's all it was. But that fight up until 10 was dead fucking level. You was outboxing the best boxer in the world. Just stop Rose, mate. You were Rose, like you come out of that with victory, mate. Like you, honestly, you know, if there was any doubters out there now, bro, there's fucking none now at all.
Bomba Clarty. Whew. I'll be honest with you, you know. I don't want to be here doing this, you know that. Honestly, I'm done. What you guys got to understand is I'm an old fucking man, you know. I'm an old fucking man. I don't want to be here right now. John, honestly, I need to put my pipe and slippers in, yeah? Sit back in a reclining chair and have a mug of Horlicks. I'm getting too old for this fucking game. Do you know what I mean? We still don't know what substance Dillian White has tested positive for. And I'm quite disappointed about that because I'm quite keen to know what substance he's actually tested positive for. Hope you guys are as interested in finding that out as me. We do have a statement from Dillian White, which I'm about to read right now. Okay. But yeah, I'm quite disappointed, really, that we don't have the name of the substance that Dillian White is tested positive for. Because if it did turn out to be something very recreational, then we would, we all owe Dillian White, apart from me, we all owe Dillian White an apology. I'm willing to bet it's not recreational, based on the statements released by Matchroom Boxing. But we'll have to wait and see. Let me start off with the disclaimer, right? Remember, a disclaimer a day keeps the lawyers away. Okay, so a disclaimer a day keeps the lawyers away. Let's do the disclaimer. I am not accusing Dillian White of intentionally taking any form of performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not accusing Dillian White of intentionally doing anything. It's down to the relevant authorities such as VADA, UK, British Boxing Board of Control, you know, and any of the other three and four letter organizations to look at all the details of this case and then decide how to deal with it as they see fit. All I do in these episodes is look at the facts of the case and simply give my opinion. Right. I think we are done with that. Guys, first and foremost, as per fucking usual, every time a British boxer fails a drugs test, it was a couple of hours now, and we know we're none the wiser. Did you not find that very ironic? I thought they said this is supposed to be the information age. And it's supposed to be the information age that we live in. Fuck me, I've never seen so much a lack of information in my entire life. Funny how it's the information age until a fucking British fighter fails a drugs test. And then all of a sudden, innit, it becomes loose lips sink ships. Shevin, we're waiting for Shevin to come on because we're going to be talking a bit about Anthony Joshua as well. We're not just going to do the whole Dillian White thing. We're going to talk Dillian White quite a bit, but we're also going to talk about new potential opponents for Anthony Joshua. So if you are an Anthony Joshua fan, I'm not sure if it's the channel for you, but if you are an Anthony Joshua fan and you're interested, please stay tuned for that. And we will be opening up the lines to a couple of people who may want to come on. I'm still hoping we'll hear from Tony today at some point as well. Should we start with Dillian's statement? Let's start with Dillian's statement. All right. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Hopefully he hasn't fucking removed it. What's going on here? I've got the first part of it. What happened to the second part? The second part of it, I cannot find. So I'll have to go and find it. In fact, I won't, because I've got two eyes and I can read. In fact, I've got I used to have really good eyesight. I'm going to read you the first part. This is Dillian White's statement, okay, on the left, okay? I am shocked and devastated to learn of a report by VADA of adverse findings relating to me. And I'm still reacting to it. I have also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before the decision was taken. So Dillian's fuming. He's lost the payday. And oh dear, why are my snazzy brand new graphics not appearing on the screen? Better make him appear, eh? Look at this. Da, 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 da. There you go. Look, I'll be honest with you. I honestly believe that we have the best graphical package of any site now, of any boxing channel out there. I don't think there's honestly, I don't think there's another boxing channel out there that has better graphics than we do at the minute now. We are sort of taking it to the next level. Anyway, let me carry on. This is funny. I didn't actually read this part before. Dillian White said, I only learned of it this morning and I am still reacting to it. I have also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before this decision was taken. Unfortunately for Dillian, he still thinks that we're living in he still thinks we're living in the year fucking 2020, don't we, Dillian? Dillian still thinks we're living in a world 2020 when he's actually of any use to Matchroom. Do you remember, I told you before, when Dillian was the mandatory for Tyson Fury, he was Matchroom's priority A, because I told you the plan all along was to get White to become Dillian White's mandatory, yeah? Let the fight go to purse bids, use all that £1 billion from DAZN to win the purse bids, and then bring Tyson Fury onto DAZN, and then try and snatch Tyson Fury after that. That was the whole point of Dillian. Dillian was always a tool. I always said that. Dillian White was a tool to try and get Tyson Fury to join DAZN. And I said that before. The plan was always to say, get him into his mandatory position. Don't agree to any deal with Frank Warren and Queensberry. Make sure the whole thing goes to purse bids. Try and win the purse bid, drag Fury over. Fortunately for Dillian's still living in a world 2021, 2020 when he was still actually useful. Unfortunately, now he's of no use to Matchroom. So, of course, they're going to cancel the flight ASAP, especially with what happened with Conor Benn. They don't give a shit. They probably didn't. It sounds like they didn't even tell Dillian. I have also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before the decision was taken. So, fuck me. It looks like they didn't even tell him. They just said, look, don't just fucking pull the plug ASAP. Dillian continues, I can confirm without a shadow of a doubt that I have not taken the reported substance in this camp or at any point in my life. Now, what he means by that is that he hasn't taken it intentionally. Obviously, it's in his system. Unless we're going to start going down the road of claiming that these VADA tests are incorrect. And stay tuned for that, because in just a second, I'm going to address some of the conspiracy theories that are going around on Twitter, because there are some conspiracy theories that are going around out there. I've forgotten my X-Files music. Shit. There are some conspiracy theories that are going on out there. What do you guys think about this? That VADA are engaged in a conspiracy against Matchroom fighters. Yeah. This is all part of a conspiracy. Apparently, somebody out there is trying to stop DAZN, yeah, from making pay-per-view fights in the UK. Because we all know, yeah, that fucking Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. and fucking Dillian White versus Anthony Joshua would fucking set the boxing world alight, right? Fucking hell. We all know that would set the boxing world alight, especially in a week where we've just had Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence, right? So apparently somebody out there has it in for Matchroom, yeah? I don't know if it's someone in the VADA laboratory or it's somebody, but apparently there's some form of conspiracy. We'll talk about it in just a second. So we continue with Dillian White's statement. I can confirm without a shadow of a doubt that I have not taken the reported substance in this camp nor at any other point in my life. I am completely innocent and asked to be given the time to go through the process of proving this without anybody jumping to conclusions or a trial by media. Fair play. I insisted on 24/7 VADA testing for this fight, as I have done voluntarily at my own expense for all of my fights for many, many years. The problem with these fighters saying that they insist on VADA testing, what these fighters aren't telling you is the following. How many fighters are insisting on 24/7, 365 random testing by VADA? How many of these fighters are doing that? I don't see many doing that at all. What these fighters are doing, yeah, is voluntarily signing up for VADA testing between 4 and 5 weeks, yeah, till fight night. By which point, yeah, you've got to be an absolute fucking idiot to test positive. You've got to be a fucking moron to test positive. See? That's what they did. Not these fighters who keep saying this stuff. Oh, why would I sign up for VADA if I knew I was gonna? They're only signing up like 3, 4, 5 weeks before they're due to fight. And they've been in camp for 2 and 3 months. These guys, the professionals, start camp, or they start their training, a lot of them, just before they know, because they know roughly when they're going to be out. They know roughly what month they're going to be out, right? Then they start the training process. Then the fight gets announced. Then they ramp up the training process, etc., etc. So it's the same old story with these fighters. Anyway, let's carry on. This is Dillian White continuing here. We can show you this part of his statement here because it will show it. This is not the first time that I have been reported as having an adverse finding for a substance which I have not taken. And as I did last time, I will completely prove that I am innocent. Now, last time, to be fair, right, he was found. What did he fail? He failed a UCAD test for 2 metabolites of dianabol, right? He failed a UCAD test for 2 metabolites of dianabol. And long story short, UCAD decided that, what was their official reaction? They said it was contamination. And they said that it was contamination that had nothing to do with negligence. Like, it was nothing, there was nothing that Dillian could have done to avoid it. So it wasn't Dillian's negligence. He didn't intentionally take it, and etc., etc., which is why the strict liability rule didn't apply to him. They also said that the fact that Dillian had passed VADA tests, what was it? He passed the VADA test before and after he failed a UCAD test, plus the low levels of the metabolites found in his system, they decided to give him the all clear at that stage. I might put that actually up on the screen at some point. Remind me of that in a minute, because the whole UCAD VADA thing is very, very interesting, because a few people are going to have to start backtracking on that. Anyway, Dillian finishes off by saying, in the meantime, all I can do is express my extreme disappointment to boxing fans who will miss out on what was sure to be a great event. Now, before we go down the Dillian White route again, I just want to cover something. I want to get a new graphic up on the screen here, because I want to address this. I want to know if any of you buy into this. Do any of you buy into this? Is there a conspiracy against Matchroom Boxing? I'm not going to put the tweets up, all right? I'm not going to put the tweets up because I don't want to get into an individual war with individual people. But several individuals online have now started to raise the case. They've said, we find this very, very, very hard to believe. They've said, we find this very, very hard to believe that every time Matchroom tries to do a pay-per-view in the UK, one of their fighters fails a VADA test. And they've started to suggest that there's some kind of conspiracy against... I've got to be careful what I say here. When Conor Benn failed, right, one of the most idiotic arguments I ever heard in my entire life, and that takes something, because most of the other arguments that you hear out there on the internet, particularly on this subject, are, borderline. Do you know what I mean? You wonder if some of these individuals could pass key stage reading 3, to be honest with you. They're that fucking stupid. But anyway, somebody basically insinuated, right, that this was, what did they say? Somebody said that a promoter had dobbed in Conor Benn, or somebody said that a rival promoter had something to do with Conor Benn's failed drugs test because Benn was getting too big. Benn and Eubank, the hype for Benn and Eubank was getting a bit too big, right? So because of that, yeah, rival promoters worked alongside VADA or did something in order to release it that he failed a drugs test or something had happened, or do you know what I mean, or whatever. It was just bizarre. But we're starting to see more and more of this now appearing on the internet, where people believe there is some form of conspiracy against Matchroom fighters. Can I put something on the screen as to why I think, a more balanced observation would be? And I can see all your comments on the screen, and I will read them out in a sec, right? But can I give you a simple explanation? Rather than VADA having a conspiracy, or rather than VADA being involved in some sort of conspiracy against Matchroom fighters, have a look at this story here from the Daily Mail. This story was released October the 8th, 2022. And this is something that we've been speaking about on this channel for many, 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 many months. And we've been called biased. We've been called idiots. What are we? Frank Warren payroll on the pot. But we've been warning about this for ages. This is the Daily Mail on the 8th of October, 2022. Could this be the reason why Matchroom are having so many issues with failed drugs tests? Could it be because, according to the Daily Mail, 30% of promoter Eddie Hearn's boxing cards have included at least one fighter who has failed a drugs test or been sanctioned for an anti-doping offense, with Conor Benn the latest to fall foul? Look at this stuff. 30% of all main events put up by Eddie Hearn have involved a fighter that has failed a drugs test. Can you see that? Rather than giving in to dumbass conspiracies, because do you remember when we had the Deontay Wilder conspiracies, the somebody spiked Deontay Wilder's drink conspiracies, right? We rightly laughed at that, didn't we? We said, what a load of fucking bollocks, right? Just take the L like a fucking man, right? Take the L like a fucking man. Ain't nobody fucking spiking Deontay Wilder's fucking drink. But all of a sudden now, they want to start advancing conspiracy theories about Matchroom and insinuating that VADA is involved in a conspiracy against Matchroom boxing. That could be, or a much more balanced and, in my opinion, realistic argument is that your problem is staring you right in the face here. And these stories that get released, but you don't want to read these stories, you see, because whoever disagrees with you is biased, isn't it? You see what I'm saying? This is what happens when you've got people who live in echo chambers, that they only read the news they want to read, and they don't read the news they don't want to read. And anybody who says something that they don't like is biased, and we just ignore that. Oh, that don't count because they're biased. We've been talking about this kind of stuff for ages, right? The Daily Mail's words, not my words. Okay, you can see it on the screen here. 30% of promoter Eddie Hearn's boxing cards have included at least one fighter who has failed a drugs test or been sanctioned for an anti-doping offense. 30% of all main event fights put up by Eddie Hearn have involved a fighter that has failed a drugs test. Press 1 if you agree with me. Press 2 if you disagree with me. To me, there's no evidence of conspiracy. To me, the reason for why Matchroom are having so many issues with fucking drug tests and fighters is staring you right in the fucking face. Press 1 if you agree with me. Press 2 if you disagree. It's right there. It's right there in front of your face. It's right there in front of your face. And again, very, very few channels in the UK will tell you that. I've never seen any channel in the UK bring up this article or show this article or display this article before. You never see that, do you? You never see that. Why? Because it's all about taking super chat money. It's not about telling it how it is. It's all about taking super chat money. But there you go, 30% there. So that's the reason. I don't believe it's a conspiracy. Another reason for it happening is this: failure to learn from past mistakes, right? Failure to learn from past mistakes. Every time, right? And here's the question, right? Every time we see somebody on Matchroom fail a drugs test, Eddie Hearn just seems to believe them. He seems to believe them rather quickly. Have you ever seemed to wonder why Eddie Hearn believes the fighter before the investigation's complete? Press 7 if you think that's odd. Press 8 if you think I'm full of shit. Have you ever noticed how Eddie Hearn seems to believe these fighters before any investigation has been completed? Do you not think so? Like, I thought how this is supposed to work is, yeah, you're promoting an event, yeah? Your fighter fails a drugs test. Okay, he has to go through the relevant process. At the end of the process, we combine all the evidence and look at all the facts, and then we decide whether we believe him or we don't believe him. Do you ever find it convenient that Eddie Hearn always seems to believe these fighters before any evidence has been fucking gathered? Do you not find that funny? We're going around in circles again. Every time a Matchroom fighter fails a drugs test, before the facts have even come out, he immediately comes out and he's like, oh, I believe he's innocent. Look, the last time we went through this was the 31st of July 2019. Just British boxing is just going around in circles. All right. If you don't realize it now, hopefully you realize it. British boxing is just going around it's the same shit that we warn about time and time again. Eddie Hearn exclusive. I don't believe Dillian White's cheated, but if he's guilty, he should be banned. Look, you can see all this shit. Look, blah 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 blah. Look at this stuff. Look at this stuff. This is Eddie Hearn about Dillian White. But what I keep saying to people, let me get up on the screen. But what I keep saying to people is just understand that a hearing was had with an independent panel where he was cleared to box. Ask yourself why he was cleared. Perhaps there's a very good chance they saw the evidence that meant he was innocent. Can you see the pattern now? So every time a Matchroom fighter seems to fail a drugs test, there seems to be a pattern, doesn't there? There seems to be, before the investigation is complete, Eddie Hearn will come out to the media and say they're innocent. Then, have you noticed, he always makes reference to this confidential evidence. This evidence that only he knows, right? He has evidence that the fighter's innocent, and only he knows this evidence. Nobody else knows this evidence. Do you see what I'm saying? Press 1 if you're still with me. Press 2 if you're not. You see? Ask yourself why he got cleared. Perhaps there's a very good chance they saw the evidence that meant he was innocent. So rest on that until you get all the news, and then you can judge. If you go back to when Conor Benn tested positive twice, right? Do you remember what Eddie Hearn was telling the media then? Oh, he's got some groundbreaking evidence. I can't tell you what it is because it's confidential. I can't show you this or tell you what it is. But man, he has got people. People will be shocked when they see this evidence. This evidence is going to completely shake everything. Do you know, guys, don't remember? And it's the same pattern every time, isn't it? Every time it's like there's some magical evidence which only he knows, which when we all hear is going to completely, we're going to go, oh my God, Oh, that clears up everything. Do you remember? Yeah, you're with me, aren't you? Look, he also does, and here's another thing he keeps doing as well. And he does exactly the same thing in the Conor Benn scandal, right? What he does is, when it suits him to release information about the case that makes him, his promotion, or the fighter look good, he'll happily talk about it. But when you ask Eddie Hearn a difficult question, then he claims confidentiality. Am I right? Am I wrong about that? This is the same patterns that are happening over and over again. Fighter fails a drugs test. Come out and say they're innocent before we've heard the facts. Tell you there's some secret magical evidence out there. There's some secret magical evidence which is hidden from the public domain, which only he knows, that when we hear it is going to completely and utterly clear the fighter. Then he's going to discuss aspects of the case which make his fighter look good and which make him look good. But anything any other sort of questions that he can't answer, he's going to claim confident. I can't talk about that because that's confidential. But you're just talking about the case the other day. Well, yeah, but I can't talk about it. There's a confidentiality agreement. Yeah, but the only bits that are confidential to Eddie Hearn are the bits that you don't want to answer. Those are the only bits that are confidential, aren't they? Right? Those are the only bits that are confidential. Again, let me quickly say this. I don't know how people honestly fall for this shit, but there are actually some grown men, yeah, of fucking, you know what I mean, of a certain age that actually will buy into this stuff, man. Look at this, right? This guy, Ahmed, this week, he told Umar Ahmed, right? When Umar Ahmed asked him, do UCAD have jurisdiction over Conor Benn? He asked him the question, do UCAD have jurisdiction over Conor Benn? So are UCAD in a position where they can even take action against Conor Benn? And he turned around and he claimed confidentiality. There's only so much I can say because of confidentiality. So he couldn't answer the question about UCAD jurisdiction because of confidentiality. This is the man who only the day before or 2 days before released a 10-minute and 37-second interview on fucking on YouTube talking about the case. Eh? So when it suits, you can do a 10-minute and 37-second interview on the Matchroom Boxing channel on YouTube discussing the case. But 1 day later, when Umar Ahmed asks you if you can have jurisdiction over Conor Benn, you can't answer because of confidentiality. How are grown men falling for this shit, man? Can I say something? If you have kids, no disrespect, if you have fucking kids and you are falling for this stuff, Jesus, that's bad, you know? Like, if you actually, like, if you're not wearing a condom, genuinely, like, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, but if you are not wearing condoms and you believe this stuff, somebody needs to have you need an intervention. You do need an intervention. Has anybody got the number from the Samaritans? You need to call the Samaritans. And we need to sit down and have a heart-to-heart. And you need to start wearing protection ASAP. You need to start wearing protection ASAP. All right? Because we don't need to be, you know, this country's fucking stupid enough as it is. Without any more of this shit going on. So, yeah, that's my point on that. To me so far, look, honestly, if I see any evidence, right, to suggest that there is some kind of conspiracy against Matchroom, then by all means, absolutely, I'll happily talk about it on this channel. And let me make it clear, it's not only Matchroom fighters that fail VADA tests. Listen, Queensbury fighters, if they haven't failed VADA tests already, Queensbury fighters will fail VADA tests in the future. Of course they will. Of course big Queensbury fighters will fail. It happens across all sport. Listen, I wait for the day when Tyson Fury fails another drugs test, or Daniel Dubois fails a drugs test, or Joe Joyce. Listen, it happens in all sports. I don't believe it's just a Matchroom specific problem, right? I don't believe only Matchroom fighters fail drugs tests, right? You know, I believe doping is rife across all boxing, all promotions, all countries. But to suggest it's some kind of VADA conspiracy against Matchroom because somebody out there gives a flying fuck about DAZN pay. What is this not? Somebody out there doesn't want DAZN to do pay-per-view in the UK. Shut the fuck up, man, and grow up, man. The answer's here right in front of you. I'll say it one more time and then we'll move on. Daily Mail, October the 8th, 2022. 30% of promoter Eddie Hearn's boxing cards have included at least one fighter who has failed a drugs test or been sanctioned for an anti-doping offense. let's go back to Dillian White. Do you guys believe that Dillian White should be banned for life? Tell me now and I'll get your comments in. My honest answer is, I think we need to wait for the facts. But let me ask you guys the question. If Dillian White has tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug, right? So let's say it's not weed, it's not cocaine, it's not some fucking herbal supplement from fucking Holland and Barrett, yeah? If Dillian White is tested positive for, a performance, something on the World Anti-Doping Agency, whatever code, you know what I mean? What do you guys think? Do you think he should be banned for life? If he's tested positive for real PED, and I agree, Intrepid Bun, and I want people to be clear, because you know what's going to happen here? If it turns out that there's been some kind of, Dillian's taken something like cocaine or fucking, Dillian's taken a nasal spray or something, yeah? Right? And people to go, Ultra, you need to apologize to Dillian White. No, I don't need to apologize to anybody because I've never accused a fighter of intentionally taking performance-enhancing drugs other than Jerome Miller. So do you have to understand here? I'm not accusing anybody of intentionally taking performance-enhancing drugs. I'm simply asking the question. If he has tested positive for a genuine PED, I'm asking you, should he be banned for life? Make sense? Yes, we should wait for the facts to come out. Nobody should be judging Dillian White before hearing the facts. I'm asking, if the facts come out and he has turned out that he's taken a performance-enhancing drug, should it now be the end for Dillian White? My opinion is no, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Mark Gilroy says, needs to be zero tolerance, one strike and life ban, only way to fix it. What do you think about Frank Warren's way, which I think is one of the best ways? But then you'll say I'm biased. Instead of all this banning for life shit, yeah, which we all know is never going to happen, what do you think about what Frank Warren suggested? Fuck the fighters, go after the dealers. Go after the dealers. Who are these guys? Who are these guys who are getting into boxing? Who are all these fucking strength and conditioning coaches who are giving these guys stuff? Get these guys out of boxing. Put the heat on them. Instead of putting the heat on the fighters, put the heat on the guys that are dealing. Put the heat on the guys that are bringing it into the gyms. That are guys that are bringing it into the sport, and encourage the fighters to grass these guys up. Now, listen, I'll be honest with you. I can't really sanction grassing on this channel, right? To be honest with you, I can't go with that. And to be honest, we all know Frank Warren, hand on heart, ain't a grass, because we know Frank Warren got shot in the head, point blank, right? 20 years ago, we know that Frank Warren got shot in the head at point blank range, right? Looked his attempted murderer right in the eye and then never told the police who it was. And that guy's been walking free for 20 years. So we know Frank Warren. We know Frank Warren is a lot of things, but we know Frank Warren is absolutely not a grass, right? Because he looked at the man who shot him in the head at point blank range, and that man walked free for the rest of his life because Frank Warren refused to tell the cops who he was. Just out of interest, Eddie the Hard Man Hearn, ex-amateur boxer and friend of Spanish gangsters, yeah, and gangsters out in Marbella. Do you think if Eddie Hearn got shot, do you think he would not tell the police who it was? Just out of interest. Just a side note. Do you think Hard Man Eddie would tell the police he had no idea who shot him in the face? I beg to differ, but that's a different story. Anyway, let's have a look here. Oh dear, oh dear. They are professional doctors, not your normal street dealers. Fair point. Mr. GC Congo says, but the fighters should know what they are taking. They are grown men. Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's what the strict liability rule is for, isn't it, Mr. Congo? That's what the strict liability rule is for, isn't it? The UK strict liability rule is meant to sort of say, look, you are responsible for what's in your. Otherwise, everybody would just claim negligence, right? I'm not sure. Let's go through your comments. Mark Stanton says fighters should have to register their team members with the board, and if the fighter gets banned, so does the. What do you think about this suggestion from Mark Stanton? Fighters should have to register their team members with the board, and if the fighter gets banned, then so does the team. Now that, I'm not saying that's the all-encompassing answer, but that is something that actually sounds quite sensible, doesn't it? If you're a trainer and you're training a guy that's failed 2 drugs tests, right? You don't get to train. You take the ban as well. How about that? You take the fucking L as well, or you don't get to train for X amount of time as well. I'm just throwing things out there. You don't get to train as well. You don't get to train the fighters as well. That's interesting, because then that would make that would increase the amount of accountability, wouldn't it, on all the on the fighters, wouldn't it? Like the trainer would be on the fighter saying, make sure you don't do this, make sure you don't do that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they would be on it, wouldn't they? That's actually quite an interesting one there. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I'm just going through some other comments here. Blah, 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 blah. Just going through the comments about Dillian White. Mark Stanton also says, going on the fact that I thought this was White's retirement fight, it would be pointless having a life ban and we don't know what he's failed on. No, if we find out he's failed for a PED, that was the question. Should we give him a life ban? We'll have to see. Let me know what you think about Dillian. Let me know what you think about Dillian. Do you think if Dillian's taking PEDs, this should be a life? Let's have a look. You guys are asking me. Somebody asked me about Tony Bellew. And that leads us into our next segment, right? That leads us into our next segment about what happened the last time Dillian White failed a drugs test. Who's that person who asked me about Tony Bellew? I've got a tweet from Tony that'll make you laugh. I've got a tweet from Tony that will make you laugh. Here we go. What's Anthony Bellew had to say about it? I'm not on Twitter. So this is Anthony Bellew. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, hopefully you guys can see this. This is Anthony Bellew on the 3rd of August, 2019. Right? And this is about Dillian White. I shit you not. You just can't fucking write this stuff. And this goes back to what I said before. Now, the last time Dillian White, right, had an adverse finding in a drugs test, they said the fact he passed his VADA tests means that he wasn't doping. That's what they said. Here's the proof. This is Tony Bellew, right? I'm going to read you this verbatim. Tony Bellew, right? 3rd of August, 2019. I know the facts. And until you do, I would suggest you don't comment. Can you see? Press 1 if you can see. Can you see? They always do this. There's this mystery evidence, which only they know. Press 1 if you're with me on that. Can you see? Same pattern every single time a match and fighter fails a drugs test. There's this mystery evidence that only an Eddie Hearn knows, or only a Tony Bellew knows this evidence. And everybody else should just shut the fuck up until they hear this incredible mystery. This is special evidence that only they know, right? Anyway, this is Bellew. I know the facts, and until you do, I will suggest you don't comment. I stand by my previous stance to ban all PED cheats for life. What I do know is Dillian did pass a VADA test 48 hours. That was wrong, by the way. It was 72. Tony Bellew. So you got your facts wrong, Tony. It was 72 hours, not 48, as confirmed here. I believe I have the report, as confirmed in this official statement from UCAD here. So Tony Bellew ain't even got the fucking facts right. Tony Bellew, know your facts. If you look here, Tony, I've got the official statement from UCAD on this screen, but my browser won't fucking zoom in to let me see it. And I don't know how to use Microsoft's magnifying glass, but I can assure you that it says here, Mr. White had provided a urine sample to VADA on the 17th of June, 2019, 3 days before the sample which failed. So Tony doesn't even know the facts. But anyway, let's get back to the original point. What I do know is that Dillian passed a VADA test 48 hours before his UCAD test, and also another 3 VADA tests. Look, what have we got here? VADA is the most stringent testing also. There you go. Can you see how these guys flip-flop whenever it suits them? Hey, VADA is the most stringent testing also. I told you. And there's certain people on YouTube who are making videos. I could dig up them videos of them saying the same shit when Dillian White failed his test. They said, bro, forget Dillian White's failed UCAD test. He passed his VADAs, and VADAs are much more stringent. So Dillian's innocent. So what is it now? Nearly 3 years later, right? 4 years later to the day. Look. Jesus, it ain't weird. Look. 3rd of August, 2019. Today's the 5th of August, 2023. So nearly 4 years to the fucking day, right? 4 years to the fucking day where you've got Tony Bellew telling you, right, that Dillian White failing a UCAD test was mitigated by the fact he passed subsequent VADA testing. And VADA is the most stringent testing. Where was that same attitude when Conor Benn failed? What do you guys think? Am I right or am I wrong about that? Can you see 4 years ago, VADA is the most stringent testing also. It was the most stringent until his mate Conor Benn failed 2 VADA tests. Then all of a sudden, there was a problem, wasn't there? So can you see how they flip-flop? Can you see how they flip-flop? Can you see how, in my opinion, this is my opinion, can you see how utterly dishonest that these individuals are? I just think they're utterly dishonest. You fail a VADA test and pass a UCAT test, then they say, oh, the UCAT test takes precedence over the VADA test. Oh, why did he fail? Why did he pass his UCAT test? If he fails a UCAT test and passes a VADA test, then they go, well, fuck the UCAT test. VADA's the gold standard. VADA's the most stringent testing also. Can you see? Just picking and choosing a drugs test, don't they? They've been doing this for years. Just picking and choosing. And it's not just Tony Belly or Eddie Hearn. It's them other stupid Muppets on social media who just lap up their shit like dog piss. Doing the same thing. Go back and look at the videos from when Dillian White failed. They were saying, but Dillian passed his VADA test. Dillian passed his VADA test. Well, guess what now, motherfucker? 4 years to the day, Dillian didn't pass his VADA test. So what now, innit? 4 years to the day, mate. Dillian ain't passed his VADA test now. So what's the story, innit? What's the fucking excuse this time? We'll have to wait to see. Let's go and wait for the facts. We should all wait for the facts. Shevin, do you still want to come on? If you do, Shev, let me know and I'll pass you the link. If anybody's interested in calling in, let me know. I think it's time to talk about Anthony Joshua, because I do want to talk about Anthony Joshua's opponent, and I want to talk about the mismanagement of Anthony Joshua's career. Because I just think the last couple of years, I think initially, listen, Matchroom did a very, very good job with Anthony Joshua. And I've always given Matchroom credit for the job that they did with Anthony Joshua. I've always given him credit for that. But I would say the last 4 or 5 years, the job that Matchroom has done with Anthony Joshua, I have to be honest with you, I'm not impressed with the job they've done with him. So let me know what you guys think about the state of Anthony Joshua's career. Let me ask you a question. Let's get a poll going up, right? We know that there was an opportunity for Anthony Joshua to have a fight with Tyson Fury earlier on this year. Well, okay. If you believe there was an opportunity, by the way, we've got about 180 in the chat and only 40 likes. If you can hit the like button, please feel free to do so. We know why, the likes don't match the concurrent viewers. People can't help themselves. They say they're never going to watch this show again, and then they watch every episode. We know what it is. But if you can please do me a favor and hit the like button. If you'd like to be part of the chat, please feel free to subscribe. Please feel free to do so. We know why you're watching this and you're not watching anywhere else, because, you know, deep down in your heart, you disagree, but deep down in your heart, you don't want to hear that watered down shit from elsewhere. Now, let me just ask you the question in a poll. Should Anthony Joshua have taken Tyson Fury fight that was, I'm going to put in quotes, okay, offered, because look, Fury has a habit of talking absolute guff, okay? And so does Frank, even though he's my boss, right? So earlier this year, I'll ask you a question on Anthony Joshua. It's in the poll now. So if you're on YouTube, you can vote on that poll. Should Anthony Joshua have taken that fight with Tyson Fury? So I'm just texting Shevin. Should he have taken that fight with Tyson Fury that allegedly was offered a couple of months ago, instead of going down the Dillian? And I'm not trying to say he's ducking, all right? I'm not saying that. That ducking shit's for fucking children. I ain't interested in that stuff, right? But do you not find that funny? How Anthony Joshua's gone down a completely different route, and it ain't looking the most fruitful route at the minute. What do you think? Do you think he's been mismanaged? I think somebody advised him to ignore Tyson Fury and go down the Dillian White route, right? Well, that route has absolutely gone up Tit's view now, isn't it? Because he's now in a situation. If you look at it, he fought Jermaine Franklin, didn't he? Anthony Joshua fought Jermaine Franklin. And that was the first time, wasn't it, that Anthony Joshua really struggled to sell a place out. Am I right or am I wrong? Like, there were tickets available for AJ and Franklin, like the day of the fight or the day before the fight. Am I right in saying that? Like, right before the fight, tickets were available. And it was one of the first times, right, that we ever saw the sort of the decline, yeah, in Anthony Joshua's drawing panel. This was a guy who used to sell out fights in seconds, right? all of a sudden he's fighting Jermaine Franklin at the O2, yeah, and tickets were just struggling to sell tickets, right? So he gets brought back in a fight with Dillian. And, listen, I don't think the hype for the fight was massive from what I saw, but certainly a more interesting fight than him and Jermaine Franklin, right? And now that fight's off. And now he doesn't even have an opponent. And there's no guarantee that he's going to be fighting in a week's time. We think it's likely because the show must go on, right? DAZN absolutely need the subscribers. We know this, yeah? And Matchroom need to get him out. So the overwhelming likelihood is that he will be out next week. But that's not 100%. Because we don't know who they can get as an opponent, and we don't know what the fuck's going to happen. These guys, like Otto Whyte, by the way, whoever said Otto Whyte's a good shout, Whyte has now said he's up for it, by the way. So Otto Whyte has said he's available. The thing is, Otto Whyte, if he's smart, will ask for quite a bit of money. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. Because don't forget, these fighters that are going to be coming in on short notice to get pulverized by an Anthony Joshua who's been training solidly for fucking last three plus months. They're going to want compensation. They're going to want compensation for doing so. So what do you guys think about that? Simon H is saying George Warren said he sent over the same... I did hear this, by the way. We all heard it. That George Warren, who is Queensberry, right? There are some people that think Frank Warren's Queensberry. Frank is on the verge of retirement. He's still involved, but George Warren is the brains behind Queensberry. And George Warren has said that the same terms that Anthony Joshua agreed to 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, when they agreed to fight, was sent back again for him to agree. So the terms weren't changed. And Anthony Joshua was advised, obviously, not to take that fight. Do you think that was clever or not clever? And do you think Anthony Joshua over the last couple of years has been mismanaged? Because the Usyk fight, we know, they never wanted him to fight Alexander Usyk. They never, ever wanted him to fight Alexander Usyk, ever. Like, the way that history has been rewritten with Usyk, is terrible. Like, Anthony Joshua was dying to fight Alexander Usyk, but Tyson Fury wasn't. Nothing could be further from the truth. Again, we've shown you many times. They threatened when Alexander Usyk was mandatory, right? Do you remember when Usyk didn't want the rematch clause and Anthony Joshua and his team, they threatened to vacate the belts? Which I'll try and get you the link for now. Remember that? Look at this. They threatened to vacate the belts. This bullshit you hear. And it's funny how people try and rewrite history that AJ was gunning for Usyk, but Fury was running. It's just not true. You can see it here. It's on a fucking DAZN website right here. Here you go. Hearn says Joshua will vacate WBO belt rather than enter purse bids for Alexander Usyk fight. It's all here. There was that and there was the rematch clause. And if they couldn't get the deal they wanted involving the rematch clause, they was going to vacate the belt. They never really was keen on fighting Anthony Joshua. And you can see it right here, on the fucking DAZN website. Hearn says Joshua will vacate WBO belt rather than enter purse bids for Alexander Usyk fight. Eddie Hearn has admitted that Anthony Joshua will vacate his WBO title if a deal can't be made to take on mandatory challenger Alexander Usyk. So, look, it is what it is, like, look. So it is what it is. So they weren't super keen on that. And then do you remember in the rematch, they were talking about the step aside? Do you remember that? The rematch. AJ lost the first fight. And then do you remember the second fight? They started talking about the step aside. And I think Eddie Hearn and his team, they made it quite clear they prefer him to step aside. So they wanted him to step aside and let Fury fight Usyk and then AJ fight the winner, etc., etc. So his career has been a bit of a mess. Do you not think? Like the whole thing with Usyk, I don't think they ever really wanted to. And I'm not saying Anthony Joshua. I'm saying his team. I don't accuse fighters of that. Anthony Joshua would fight anybody. He's a fighting man. I'm talking about teams. I don't think his team ever wanted him to fight Alexander Usyk. The rematch, I don't think they were keen on the rematch. I don't know if you guys remember the step aside talk. Eddie Hearn seemed pretty furious at the time when Fury didn't agree to fight Usyk that time, so AJ could step aside and fight the winner. It seems they didn't want to do that rematch. After the rematch, he had the post-fight meltdown. Then next minute, he's jumping in the ring with Jermaine Franklin in a pretty much a dud fight. The performance against Franklin wasn't very good. It didn't look like the quote-unquote the old AJ, right? And now he's got in the ring with Dillian White, somebody who's been brutally knocked out now, couple of times, isn't he, Dillian White? He's been brutally knocked out by Povetkin and brutally knocked out by Tyson Fury. Dillian White really is there for the taking from Anthony Joshua. It's a fight that he has to look good. That you just, if he's got anything left, you have to think Anthony Joshua would look good in that fight. And he's not going to get the opportunity. What do you guys think? Just if anyone's got any opinions on what would you do with Anthony, who would you put Anthony Joshua in the ring with next if you were his promoter? And where do you think his career is going? Because for me, when I look at Anthony Joshua, honestly, and I could be wrong, for me, the hype of his fights just has gone. Like when it was, as someone who runs a boxing channel, right, on YouTube, right, I have a pretty good nose. I can tell by numbers, right, and things like that and stuff, like hype and stuff. Not, you know what I mean? I have a pretty good nose for what fights people are interested in and what fights people aren't interested in. As somebody who delivers content to boxing fans, right? And when Anthony Joshua was in his peak and he was fighting on Sky Box Office, when this guy was fighting the likes of Eric Molina, like if I told you the hype for an Anthony Joshua fight when he was fighting the likes of like an Eric Molina, and these guys were, who the fuck is Eric Molina? But the hype was still there though. The hype was, there was something about it, wasn't there? A hype was still there. It's AJ Fight Week, open workout on Sky Sports. They were showing the open workouts, live on Sky Sports News. Everybody was tuning in. What's he looking like? What's he going to weigh on fight night? I heard he's been working in. There was a whole buzz in it. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Right or wrong? There was a whole big buzz about Anthony Joshua fights. And ever since he's gone to DAZN and signed that quote unquote lifetime agreement with DAZN, it's just never been the same, is it? What do you think? It's just never, ever been the same. Benny Stokes brings up quite a good point here. AJ has earned more money than all the other heavyweights combined. Eddie Hearn has done a brilliant job. Fury tried to get AJ fresh off a loss to Usyk. I think Eddie definitely did a good job early on. But what we're talking about is the last couple of years. Because ever since he's been roped into signing this, I think the problem started after the first Andy Ruiz loss. I think that matchmaking was bad. And I think that's where the problem started, isn't it? Problem started when Jerome Miller failed a drugs test and Eddie Hearn thought it was a clever idea to allow him in the ring with Andy Ruiz on X weeks' notice, isn't it? That's pretty much was the end of Anthony Joshua. I think when we look at the end of Anthony Joshua's career, it was pretty much those two things, right? Not fighting Deontay Wilder, which I'm not saying he ducked him. I'm just saying, yeah. Not fighting Deontay Wilder, right? So that's what I would say with Eddie Hearn. And you know what? It's when you say Eddie Hearn's done a brilliant job with him. Like I said, look at the last couple of years. Failed to make the undisputed fight. At the minute, obviously, we haven't seen one with Fury either. So you've got a whole Frank Warren accountable for that. But failed to make the undisputed fight with Deontay Wilder, right? Got him into a fight with Jerome Miller. Jerome Miller failed about 150 drugs tests, right? And then what did he do? He let AJ jump in the ring on X weeks' notice with a very dangerous fighter. Ruiz absolutely sparked him. He was never the same again after that. But ever since then, and even then, leaving Sky, going to DAZN, what is that about? I mean, listen, financially, if it makes sense, it makes sense. But to me, as someone from the outside in, the buzz looks gone. What do you guys think? The buzz looks absolutely gone from AJ fights. Like, it's just not the same. It's not the same buzz, mate. To me, it's not the same buzz. So, if I was him, I would question, what is going on? What fights can I get? And who's watching these fights? What do you guys think? Who's watching these fights? Is the buzz the same? I'd love to see him back on Sky Box Office. You know that? To be honest with you. I would love to see him back on Sky Box Office. I'd absolutely love to see him back on Sky Box Office, back on Sky. Because I think the big fighters should be on the big channels. And I know it's money, but I'm just saying, I think the big fighters should be on the big platforms, innit? He's a big fighter, and he should be on a big platform. I don't know why he's on this fucking app fucking around, but like I said before, I'm sure he's been compensated very well. But I'd understand it. And for me, the buzz is gone. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Give me some names. Someone said David Price. Jesus Christ, David Price, my ass. I mean, what would you guys do with AJ next? Who would you put him in the ring with? Let's read some comments. As a fan, Ruiz, Ortiz, Wilding. Do you know what? This Luis Ortiz, is Luis Ortiz still fighting? And is he still contracted to PBC? Because Ortiz, listen, Ortiz might need a payday. Why not? Bacoli ain't going to happen. Billy Nelson chatting about Bacoli, but ask Billy Nelson. I've got a direct line to Billy Nelson, but he didn't never want to answer my questions. Ask Billy Nelson, yeah, how a boxer going to go and do a deal with Matchroom to allow Bacoli to go in the ring with Anthony Joshua on a rival promotion inside the next week? Ask Billy Nelson that question. Somebody asked Billy Nelson and say Ultra asked, because he ain't gonna answer me. Somebody say Ultra, Billy Ultra asked you, how on earth is Ben Shalom gonna allow Martin Bacoli to go over to Sky for free and fight Anthony Joshua on DAZN without getting anything in return? What does Ben Shalom get in return? What does Sky get in return? Do you know what I mean? And they're gonna do that deal inside a week. I'm not sure about that, but it'd be interesting. Let's have a look. Parker fight. Yeah, a lot of you think the Parker fight was the end of AJ's career, or when his career started to go down, where he had that stink fest against Joseph Parker. Yeah, the kid's back thinks it's the same as well. You guys think it was the Parker fight was where it went down. Mark Stanton saying he should have stayed on Sky. The DAZN model is no good for casual one-off pay-per-view buyers. I mean, they won't tell us how many people are watching it, so we can't get a gauge. But I don't know what you guys feel, but I just don't know what's going on with Anthony Joshua right now. Like, to me, like I said before, can I ask you guys a question? Do you really think that Anthony Joshua is going to fight Deontay Wilder next now after all this? Genuine question. Do you really believe now that Anthony Joshua's, because it looks like he's not going to get the opponent, right, that we were expecting, correct? Right? He was supposed to have a tough fight against Dillian White, okay, before going on to fight Wilder. Now, it looks like he could be getting in the ring with an Otto Wallin, yeah? It looks like he could be getting in the ring with an Otto Wallin. It looks like he could be getting in the ring with a fucking Derek Chisora type fighter. Is that sufficient preparation to get in the ring with Wilder? Do you think so? I'm trying to find something. I'm going to try and find Eddie Hearn's 3-fight plan. Look at this. So Eddie Hearn, because Eddie Hearn told Piers Morgan he's got a 3-fight plan for Anthony Joshua. I'm just going to get up for you in a second. I'm just going to look down. Here we go. And I'll drag it over right here. Excuse me. Right. So if you look at the right-hand side of the screen, you should see here. Here you go. This is on July the 26th. So Eddie Hearn was running his mouth. This was 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, Eddie Hearn told Piers Morgan his 3-fight plan for Anthony Joshua. August the 12th, Dillian White. So his 3-fight plan failed on fight 1, typical. December and January, Deontay Wilder. And then 2024, Tyson Fury. Does anybody believe that in December or January, that Anthony Joshua will be standing in a ring opposite Deontay Wilder? And does anybody believe that? Let me know if you do. Does anybody believe that Anthony Joshua will be standing in a ring face-to-face with Deontay Wilder in December or January? It's now August. And he's going to be getting in a ring with a Dempsey McKean, a fucking Otto Wallin, a fucking Gerald Washington, a Derek Chisora. That's the level of opponent he's gonna be in with. So do you see him going from that to a fight with Wilder? I'm not sure. Games You Love thinks it's not likely. Bud Top thinks it's not happening. Yeah, I think we all want to see that. Chris S thinks no. Albie says different. He says if he can find a fight and win on Saturday, I think he can still fight Deontay Wilder. It depends on what level the opponent is, isn't it? You know? If it's someone like a Filip Hrgovic and he comes through that, then yeah, he's ready. Absolutely. But I'm just thinking, innit? I'm just thinking. I'm not saying Anthony Joshua's ducking. Right? I'm just saying, like, is it sufficient preparation? Because there's a big difference between fighting Dillian White and fighting Otto Wallin. Or is there? But, you know, I mean, on paper there is certainly. Let's have a look here. Here, blah, 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 blah. Mark Stanton says they can sell Wallin off back of Fury getting cut and it looking like they could do that. They could put him in with Wallin. And then you know what they could do as well? They could say, Wallin's a tricky southpaw. Oh, look, AJ's getting in the ring with a southpaw again. Remember what AJ says he hates southpaws. AJ jumping in with a tricky southpaw who should have beaten Tyson Fury on fucking X-Wing. Yeah, he can do it. But the reality is Wallin will get fucking hammered in a round or two. Wallin ain't got nothing for Anthony Joshua. He get hammered out there, man. Snoop Bob says, I think he'll fight Wilder if the money's there. I think Anthony Joshua will fight anybody, but I think it's the people around him, innit? That's what I'm saying. Anthony Joshua, if you leave it to Anthony Joshua, he'd have fought Wilder already and probably got knocked out and all. But he'd have fought him already. But it's the people around him, innit? Richard says the Wilder fight is long gone, never going to happen. Wilder has a fight with Andy Ruiz, and he hasn't even fucking had that fight yet. And I'm sure he's contracted to fight someone like an Andy Ruiz. So
at the minute in time, I just can't see how Wilder and fucking. And let me ask you another question as well. And let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. I want you to do me a favor. If you think this is a valid question, press 5. And if you think this is a stupid question, press 6. Right? So if you think the question I'm about to ask is a valid question, press 5. If you think it's a stupid question, press 6. We hear all this talk, don't we, about Saudi Arabia and all these Saudi fights. Am I lying? Oh, Tyson Fury is refusing to fight Alexander Usyk in Saudi Arabia. He's ducking it. He asked for too much money. There's this, that. I'll ask you one question. Where are these offers from Saudi Arabia? Has anybody seen them? Because I haven't seen one. Do you not think that's a bit funny? Where are these actual contractual paper offers from Saudi Arabia to fight? Because no one's ever seen one. Have you not noticed that? So let me give you an example. Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Saudis have never sent a contract for that to Eddie Hearn. They've never done that. Amir Abdullah from Skills Challenge, I'll get you the video in a minute because Shevin found it. Amir Abdullah literally said that Eddie Hearn was not telling the truth about there being a... Eddie Hearn said, oh, we've been sent the contract or we've been sent the agreement. But it's right here. Amir Abdullah said it. No offer has ever been sent to Anthony Joshua for a fight from Deontay Wilder. This is what I'm telling you. You've got all these promoters that are making up these stories about these offers from Saudi Arabia. Where are they? We hear all these stories about, well, the Saudis offered Fury this, and this. Look, Amir Abdullah rejects. That's rejecting the money. But Amir Abdullah's fact checked Eddie Hearn 150 million times. 150 million times he's fact checked Eddie Hearn. He's fact checked him on the amount of money that the Saudis are offering. Because you remember when Hearn said that rumor, or there was that rumor that they were going to have Usyk and Fury and Wilder and AJ on the same night in Saudi Arabia, and all of the fighters were going to get paid like $100 million. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? And Amir Abdullah, who represented and who's the front man for Skills Challenge, came out and said, no, that's fucking bullshit. Nobody's offering that kind of money. That kind of money is not being offered. He said that. There's another interview, which I'm trying to find, where he also said that no contract has been sent to Eddie Hearn for Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. No contract has been sent by Skills Challenge. And Amir Abdullah is on record of saying that. So I'll ask you the question. You've got to be careful. When you start talking about all this stuff that's on offer from Saudi Arabia, people need to start asking the questions, well, where are these offers then? Because a lot of it's talk of a deal, but no actual fucking cast iron offers are being sent out. I'm just being honest. Like, the whole Fury versus Usyk thing in Saudi Arabia, it depends who you believe. Like, maybe Fury's lying, maybe his team are lying. According to them, and I've never heard this refuted, the reason why the fight couldn't happen in Saudi Arabia and had to happen in Wembley is because the Saudis turned around and said the stadium wouldn't be ready on time to get the necessary gate. Did anybody else hear that? Was I right or was I wrong about that? Does anybody else hear that story? The reason why that Usyk Fury had to try and be moved to Wembley Stadium instead of Saudi Arabia was allegedly because the stadium and the venue wouldn't be ready in time in Saudi Arabia to stage the fight. So all this talk of money and XYZ's been offered this and XYZ's been offered that actually was a pile of horse manure, because allegedly they didn't even have a venue. Like, the venue wasn't in a state where they could actually do it. So I'm just saying, maybe Fury's team's lying. Maybe Fury's team's lying. It could be, but I'm saying just be aware of that when you hear all these talks about all these Saudi offers. Again, ask Hearn, have you actually received an offer? Because Skills Challenge haven't sent one. So yeah, Wilder versus AJ. Do you see it? Do you see it happening? Tom Smith says, I hope AJ fights Wilder. I've got a nice bet on Wilder at even money. Mark Stanton says, why is it only a few heavyweights getting the magical Saudi money, but no other fighter in other divisions? That's quite interesting. Oh, God. There's a lot of other good questions as well. So, yeah, that's where we're at the minute. That's where we're at. That's my opinions on it, you know. We'll know more when we hear about Anthony Joshua's next opponent. And that's what we need to do. We need to wait for more information. We need to wait to hear who Anthony Joshua's next opponent's going to be. I still think Chisora is I'm not saying he's the favourite, but honestly, if I had to guess, I would say Whyte will definitely be getting a phone call. Chisora will definitely be getting a phone call. I'm not sure who else. Oh, if anybody cares, Big John Fisher wants Johnny Fisher to jump in, and I'm fucking not kidding you. Big John Fisher actually said that. Big John Fisher said, "Let's throw the bull in there." He's fucking off his tits, mate. He has been offered the tits. Have you heard Hazim Rahman Jr.? No, that's a lie. They wouldn't offer him. He was going life and death with Jake Paul inspiring. From what we heard on the thing. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but Hazim Rahman Jr. Oh my God, this can't be right. Lord G, this is what I'm talking about. This would be a disaster. Happy Punches Hazim Rahman Jr. has received a potential offer to step in for Dillian White and fight Anthony Joshua on August the 12th. I don't believe that. We need to hear Eddie Hearn. We need to hear Eddie Hearn comment on that, because I don't believe that. Do you guys believe that? That they would offer a fight to Hazim Rahman Jr. to fight with Anthony Joshua? They can't do that. This is what I'm saying, man. People don't understand how dire this situation is, man. This situation's dire. And I don't believe this story for a second. I believe this story is pure and utter BS. But let me tell you something. If it was true, just imagine you telling me that his handlers are going to let him go from a fight with Hazim Rahman Jr. into a fight with Deontay fucking Wilder in December. Is that what you're telling me? That's what you're telling me? That his handlers would let him go from a fight with Hazim Rahman Jr. in August to a fight with Wilder? Get the fuck out of here. Why would they do that for? He'd be fucking done for attempted murder. I don't believe that story. That story can't be right. That story, not even Benson has reported on that. Has Benson said anything about that? That's how bad that is. You've got Andy Ruiz putting himself forward here. Andy Ruiz putting himself forward. Andy Ruiz is full of shit. Andy Ruiz is full of shit. You need permission from Al Heyman. This is nonsense from Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz always doing this kind of shit for attention seeking. We need that trilogy. Do you know how much money Andy Ruiz is asking for to fight at the minute, by the way? He's asking for a lot of money. How much did he ask to fight Tyson Fury? Andy Ruiz. Allegedly, he asked for 20 million. Allegedly. Because obviously he's going through divorce, isn't it? Andy Ruiz is about to go through a very, very expensive divorce, isn't he? So he needs the bread, man. He's talking about 20 million, is he not? Fucking hell, man. He needs permission from Al Heyman. Maybe it can happen, but I don't think it will fucking happen. Andy Ruiz, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Yeah, exactly. Ruiz is talking pure bollocks. Andre's here. Andre, if you do want to come in and give your opinion on Whyte, you're welcome to do so. But Andre, I disagree with you. I think Anthony Joshua will smash Whyte in about half a second, to be honest with you. But let me know, Andre, if you want to call in and give your opinion on Whyte, because we haven't had anybody call in. Supposed to have Chevron call in, but he's gone missing again. That's okay. No one's getting paid overtime to do this. Ice Meister says they should get one of the little put. That's brilliant. I don't know how many of you will get this one. They should get one of the little piped up youths from Reading jail before AJ busts his case to step in. Oh my God. Remember that speech from Anthony Joshua after the Usyk rematch? And he goes, I was in a little piped up youths in Reading. Now bust me case. AJ was talking about doing time in juvenile detention center. The man AJ was talking about it like he just done 20 on Rikers Island, didn't it? Like, do you remember that in post Usyk fight? Like, AJ was talking, didn't it, like he just done 20 on Rikers Island, didn't it? Like he was in a Shawshank Redemption. Man did fucking 5 minutes in fucking juvenile correction, didn't it? Jesus fucking Christ. Games You Love thinks Washington. Paul Richardson thinks Washington. Joshua will fight Washington. Easiest fight to make. Do you know what? I tell you what. I need to hear Derek Chisora say the words. When I see Derek Chisora say the words that he ain't fighting AJ, then I'll start looking at other opponents. But I need to hear Derek Chisora say them words. Ultra, you might as well go in there with AJ. Jesus fucking Christ. Listen, I've got better footwork than Dillian White. Problem is, I've got a glass jaw and I weigh about I weigh about 1/8 of what Anthony Joshua weighs, but I've definitely got better footwear than Dillian White, 100%. I can promise you. Abdul is here. He's saying, get Big Baby Miller. Well, Abdul, seeing as you can see here, 30% of promoter Eddie Hearn's boxing cards have included at least one fighter who has failed a drugs test or being sanctioned for an anti-doping offense, according to the Daily Mail. Jerome Miller would be right fucking at home. In fact, I'm surprised Jerome Miller hasn't signed with them motherfuckers already. Let's have a look here. Yeah, it is what it is there. Jack Macy. What the fuck? Hold on a minute. Jack Macy. I mean, listen, we love Joe Gallagher all of a sudden. Joe Gallagher is friends of the show. So that would be a Joe Gallagher fighter. But look, you can't be. If Hearn puts AJ anywhere near Jack Macy, I'm ringing the police. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, it's Jack. Listen. I've got time for Joe Gallagher fighters, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But if we do, it'll be interesting because I've got a direct line to Joe Gallagher, so I might be able to give you some inside stories on camp. So I've got the direct line straight through to Joe G, mate. So we'll have to wait and see, but it can't be one of these guys. It absolutely can't be one of these guys. Let's have a look here. Yeah. Any last names? I'm surprised Chevrolet mentioned Ortiz. What is Luis Ortiz's situation? I mean, he's 150 years old, but why not? I'm trying to find and see anything about Luis Ortiz. I think that shit passed when he was signed for Matchroom Boxing all them years ago, and they never put him in the ring with anybody other than Dave Allen. Listen, I'm still getting. Oh, Michael Hunter, I've seen that as well. Michael Hunter is throwing a name out. Before we go, let me ask you this before we go. I'm going to give you these names. Who's the best out in these names, right? Type the name in the chat. Out of these names, Michael Hunter, Otto Wallin, Luis Ortiz, Jerome Miller, Martin Bacole, Charles Martin. Those are the names I'm going to give you, all right? Michael Hunter, Otto Wallin, Luis Ortiz, Jerome Miller, Martin Bacole, Charles Martin. Out of all those names, who would you like to see Anthony Joshua have a fight with? I'm going to say one more time. Michael Hunter, Otto Wallin, Luis Ortiz, Jerome Miller, Martin Bacole, Charles Martin. Out of all those names, who would you pick AJ to have a fight with at 1 week's notice? Get them in. Let's have a look here. Oh, Hunter's his sparring partner. Sparring partner for who? Hunter's saying he wants to fight Abdul. Hunter. Quite a few people are saying, oh, Hunter is a sparring partner. Yeah, I think AJ would knock him out, 100%. I agree with you, Abdul. The kid's back saying Hunter. Gamebred is saying Jerome Miller. Well, they might as well now, won't it? John Trowson said, think Ortiz has been put back in the pyramid. They've mummified Luis Ortiz, innit? He's resting, innit? Luis Ortiz is resting somewhere in a fucking tomb, innit? He's resting in a fucking tomb somewhere, man. Jerome Miller from Don Jameson. Sean at Medieval says Hunter. Richard saying Martin Bacole. I think Bacole ain't fit right now. Is Bacole even fit to fight Anthony Joshua? I think a fully fit Martin Bacole is too dangerous for him. What do you guys think about that? I'll be honest with you. I think a fully fit Martin Bacole is too dangerous for Anthony Joshua. I pick Anthony Joshua to win the fight by knockout, but Bacole's got a weird style because he throws a lot of punches. Like, I don't give a shit what Billy Nelson says. I don't believe Martin Bacole is a technically great fighter. What I believe about Martin Bacole is his style is very dangerous because he throws a lot of punches. He keeps coming forward and he's got a very, 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 very high work rate. And he knows how to set up punches, Martin Bacole. He knows how to set up punches and he has a very, very, very high work rate. He's a very, very difficult fighter for someone to beat, you know, as Tony Yoka found out the hard way. Alabi says Otto Wallin. Mark Gilroy says Martin Bacole. You on about mate says Hunter. You guys think Michael Hunter would do something right? I'm telling you, man. Michael Hunter get knocked out, man. You guys are smoking crack. He gets sparked by AJ, man. Abdul says Bacole or Miller. Chuck saying Martin Bacole. Will is saying Hunter. P is saying Miller. Mark Stanton thinks Otto Wallin. Otto Wallin will get smoked, boy, like a blunt. But if you guys want to see it, we can do it. Crazy D3 saying Martin Bacole. Games You Love saying Ortiz. I'll be saying Wally or Ortiz. Sean Medieval thinks Bacole would beat him. I think Bacole at 100% is a good fight for Joshua at this stage, to be honest with you. I just, again, as you saw with Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. Resumes don't make fights. Do you understand? Styles make fights, right? If there's one takeaway from Crawford and Spence, is that resumes do not make fights. Styles make fights. Sandis says Hunter could be at least somewhat realistic fight to make, I reckon. Well, yeah, Michael Hunter needs the money. So you better believe that. Listen, I agree with you. I think Michael Hunter is possible because he needs the money. So Michael Hunter will come in for £2.50 a bag of pot scratches and he'll do the fight. Whereas somebody like Chisora is going to hold them to ransom. Remember that scene, yeah, from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels? Remember that scene from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels when you've got the fucking armed robbers? Hold on. Jesus. You got Robbie G in there, but Tyrone. Trying to do a robbery. Why can I not see this on my search thing? Anyway, you get the picture. You know what I'm talking about. I'll try and find a picture in a minute. When you had Robbie and fucking Tyrone. Robbie G and Tyrone doing that robbery. Lock, Stock. Got to find it now. There we go. Fuck me. It took long enough. This is Derek Chisora right now. See when Eddie Hearn's calling Derek Chisora? This is Derek Chisora right now. That's 258 management right now for Derek Chisora. They've been looking to hold these guys to fucking ransom, man. Straight. Oh, Tony's here. Tony, if you want to pop in, I'm saying, you don't have to, but Tony, I've been looking for someone to call in. So if you're up to date with the news and you want to pop in, Tony, just let me know. If not, it's super cool. But if you do, Tony, let me know. It's cool. We still got nearly 200 in here, Tony. So let me know what you're about. But yeah, any phone call to Derek Chisora and 258 management, that's what you're going to be seeing on the screen, innit? Do you know what I mean? When Eddie Hearn gets the call on his mobile phone, this is what's going to pop up, innit? This is the picture that's going to pop up, yeah, for Derek Chisora and 258 management. It's going to be balaclava time. They're going to be throwing out silly numbers, you know, silly numbers. So whoever said Michael Hunter, that could actually be realistic because they might be able to fleece this guy for fuck all and keep all the money to themselves, which is the name of the game, innit? Pay the opponent as little money as possible and then take the fucking profit. Charles Martin rematch. I'd watch it because I think Charles Martin would do a lot better. A lot better. LD Phoenix says, how would AJ fare against Ortiz angles? 5 or 6 years ago, very fucking badly, to be honest with you. Very badly. I think Luis Ortiz 5-6 years ago is a really bad matchup for Anthony Joshua. I would actually pick Anthony Joshua to win, but he'd have to come through some fire, you know? I think we get a fight like Vladimir Klitschko where AJ would have to get off the floor to win because I think Ortiz is years ago, not now, but I think the Luis Ortiz of 5, 6, 7 years ago, because he could punch hard. It wasn't just the angles that he came from. He could punch hard. And AJ don't know how to set his feet and move and position himself against southpaw fighters. I mean, I think Ortiz could really knock him out, you know. People criticize me for saying that. But I think if you took the Luis Ortiz that fought Deontay Wilder in the first fight and put him in the ring with Anthony Joshua, I think, honestly, Anthony Joshua could get sparked out, you know. I'll go with AJ to win, but I think he'd have to get off the canvas. But I think he would be in real trouble early on in the fight. It wouldn't surprise me if Luis Ortiz dropped him because he punches really hard as well. It ain't just the fucking angles, he's a boxer puncher. And I think he punches hard enough to put AJ's head into orbit, to be honest with you. That's my honest opinion. Let me go through thing here. Chris S says Hunter will take the fight. He believes he can win. Are you serious? Crazy D3 saying a Cole is a shout. Similar dimensions. Oh, shit, to Wilder. Tony says, I had shoulder surgery yesterday. It will be a while before I speak. Well, man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. You need to get in touch with me, man, on Gmail, man. Or there needs to be a way that we can get in contact so we can keep up with what's going on, isn't it? So let me know, Tony. Send me an email address or something or drop me something. But give me an email address so we can know what the fuck's going on, bro. But yeah, sorry to hear about shoulder surgery, man. And I hope you get better soon, man. Hopefully that will stop you making bad picks like Errol Spence to beat Terence Crawford. The kid's back says, let's have a look here. Blah, 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 blah. AJ versus Bellew is what it is. Manuel Char. Will Manuel Char get it? Manuel Char will be on the phone. Christopher Lovejoy will be on the phone. Christopher Lovejoy will be on the phone. Manuel Char will be on the phone. It'll be interesting to see. Let's do a quick search. One more quick search for news on AJ opponents. Surprised we haven't heard any more news. Cole, forget about it. No chance. Blah, blah, blah. Let's have a look here. See what Twitter's saying about any new AJ. Akole accused Eddie Hearn of being a slave driver. He ain't getting no more payday from Eddie Hearn. We don't even know Anthony Joshua will have an opponent. Let's have a look here. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. So they're talking about Michael Hunter. Oh, look. Anthony Joshua needs a new opponent. Robert Helenius just came out of a camp and got a quick KO today. Robert Helenius. I don't know about that. I mean, the knockout he got was pretty fucking terrible, eh? From Wilder. Oh, look, there's Big Dan. Look, here we go. Here's Big Dan Raphael talking on boxing. What's he saying? Big Dan Raphael. Listen, whenever you don't want to know about boxing, there ain't no better than Big Dan Raphael. If there's any man who knows about what it takes to be a top-level athlete, yeah? If you want an insight into what it takes to be a top-level athlete and a top-level fighter, you definitely need to get your news from Big Dan Raphael. Dan Raphael on why it may be difficult to find a worthy last-minute opponent for Anthony Joshua. Yeah, Richard's saying Helenius after getting the touch of death from Wilder. I mean, I'm not sure about that. Let's have a look here. Graham Houston, arguably one of the... LD Phoenix says Moses Italma. Listen, man, we don't do that shit over at Queensbury, man. That's Matchroom who do all that dare to be great shit, man. We don't do that shit on Queensbury. Listen, Italma will be moved along at a steady pace. And in 1 or 2 years' time, if you're lucky, you might get to see Italma and Kamil Sorolowski in the ring. That's how we do things at Queensbury. Slowly, 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 slowly. There won't be any fucking... there won't be any of those fights happening on Queensbury anytime soon. That's not how we do things, mate. We don't do the dare to be great stuff, mate. Stick to York Hall and Telford Arena. Do what we do best. You on about, mate, says Fabio Wardley. Fabio Wardley. Listen. Fabio Wardley's a pretty realistic individual, isn't he? He's quite well educated. Isn't Fabio Wardley quite... Fabio Wardley comes across as quite well educated. I think if you gave some of these boxers an IQ test, I think there'd be quite a few failures. But I do think Fabio Wardley would do quite well in the IQ test, isn't it? Like, he's quite smart. Smart enough not to get in with Anthony Joshua. Let's have a look here. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there's just nothing else going on. Blah, 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 blah. Dear, oh dear. John Smith says, put Dan as the opponent. He's fat and obese and a perfect heavy bag. Exactly what Matchroom are looking for. Dan Raphael, listen. Dan Raphael is so deluded, he probably thinks he's got a chance. Trust me. Dan Raphael probably thinks after an 8-week camp he'd have a shot. He is out there, Dan Raphael. Dan Raphael really doesn't live in a different world. John Charleston says, trust me, it's McKean. Whoever said John Fury, I'm up for that. Jason says AJ versus John Fury. You know what? Honestly, it's about time that John Fury actually got in the ring, because all John Fury does is talk about fighting people, but he don't fight nobody. Look at this stuff. John Fury. All John Fury does is talk about fighting people, but he ain't fought nobody. Oh, here comes Shevin now. Shevin wants to have his say. What? Now, after 1 hour, 23 minutes now, he wants to come on and have his say. Fuck me. What an absolute clown. What an absolute fucking clown. Bad enough we ain't got no Tony tonight. Man recovering from shoulder surgery, saying you don't want to appear on my channel. Tony, I don't give a fuck about shoulder surgery, man. Put that cortisone injections in, Tony. Put them cortisone injections in, Tony. I hear it numbs up your shoulder, Tony. And get your ass on this fucking channel, man. Don't want to hear no excuses about came off shoulder surgery, bro. Bro. Do you not know that Danny Williams once fought with a dislocated shoulder, Tony? Do you not know? It's the fight game, man, Tony. It's the hurt business, Tony. Right. I believe we'll be getting Shevin on. Because I know Shevin's going to have some interesting thoughts on Anthony Joshua's career. And you don't want to just hear from me. So we'll quickly hear from Shevin. Listen, the link's in the chat. If somebody else wants to come on and give their opinion, they're welcome to do so. But hurry up. The link's in the chat. Is there any boxing tonight? Yes. There's Jake Paul versus fucking Nate Diaz. Which I would not be staying up for because it's crap. But if you are interested, if you are desperate to get your fix of boxing, then yes, I hear that we have Jake Paul to Shevins here. I hear we have Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz for you. Listen, I don't know if I'm up tonight and I've got insomnia and I can't sleep. Maybe I'll consider doing it. 1 second. Let me put my headphones in. Oh, here we go. This fucking clown's here. Oh, hold on. I can see it. Let me just put my headphones in and I'll bring Shevin in. If anybody wants to call in, the link's available. People want to call in and give their views. As long as you don't start slagging me off or saying any naughty words, you can have your say. Hold on a minute. I can't hear. I'm just going to fucking do something quickly. Uno momento. My headphones are Bluetooth, so I've just got to step them up if I can, but my headphones won't connect. Shevin, just wait for me 1 second. I'm just trying to get my Bluetooth headphones to connect properly, but they're not doing it. Ultra, it's crazy to think that an 18-year-old Atalma could knock out most of us grown men. No, it's not. If you look at a lot of very, very talented fighters, they're knocking out grown men at 14, 15 years old. And that's a fact of life, you know. Going to gyms, I've never seen it, but you get some very, very talented super kids out there, and they're sparring grown men by the time they're 13, 14. It's very common. You're on the meet.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're in the car. Where are you going? What, down to Shackson Bird or something? Where the fuck are you at?
Actually, I just picked up some food and went to a stretch session after the good gym session.
Quote unquote stretch session. Yeah, okay. Stretch session. Good stuff, mate. Go on then. Let's start off with your views about Dillian quickly before we get on to AJ and all that shit. Without saying anything libelous, Shevin, I'm going to go and grab a cup of tea. We estimate this has been the third time that Dillian White now has had some form of issue with a drugs test. Now, we have to wait and see what the situation is. Like I said before, we have to wait for the B sample. Where have you heard that before? If the B sample is even tested. But it seems like we have to keep going down this route with Dillian White, Shevin, over and over again. What do you think about what's going on with it?
It's really disappointing, man. It's not surprising, but it's also disappointing. It's just, I don't know where Dillian goes from here. You know, he's 36 years old. We all know that the loser of this fight was going to be a loser leaves town fight. And for Dillian, having not had the fight, he's pretty much, I think he's out of the sport of boxing at this point. I can't imagine anyone outside of Matchroom dealing with him. And I can't imagine even Eddie Hearn dealing with him after this point, because this is going to be his last hurrah. Go in there, put on a decent performance, get knocked out by Joshua so Joshua can look good, and they can start selling that hype train all over again. And everyone wins. Joshua wins, Whyte wins. But Whyte has went and royally screwed that up for himself and for AJ and for Matchroom. So I think Dillian's done in boxing. But he's had a good career. He's made some money on big fights, on big shows that his skill set probably doesn't deserve. So good for him, man. He's done well for himself. But this point, it was kind of like a last hurrah attempt to hope he can cause some kind of trouble for Anthony Joshua, opposed to just taking what he got in this fight itself. And his attempt to, you know, allegedly, possibly, maybe, ingest something, maybe, allegedly, possibly, maybe, not sure, I heard, but not quite sure, nor am I accusing of, a substance that may have given someone like himself an advantage for the second or third time, allegedly, maybe, possibly, but not sure, maybe, possibly so, someone I heard, not necessarily Dillian itself, have done something like that. To have done something like that at this point in his career on a last hurrah fight was just so stupid. It was really stupid, really, really stupid. So I think he's finished in the sport of boxing. As far as AJ, before I get to AJ, what do you think, Ultra, in the sense of, do you think at this point in Dillian's career there's going to be a retort from this action? I don't think there is.
Well, no, I think you'll probably get off scot-free. But now let me answer a question with a question and ask you a question, which you said so far. Do you think that Matchroom are going to help Dillian and fight his case the same way they fought Conor Benn's case? Are they going to fight tooth and nail for Dillian, or are they going to hang Dillian out to dry? Because if you look at the statement from Dillian said in the statement, and I thought this was quite interesting here. Dillian said in his official statement, he said, "I have also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before their decision was taken." So there's already a little bit of difference with the Conor Benn fight there, isn't there? Because Conor Benn, obviously, they fought tooth and nail, didn't they, to try and allow Conor Benn to fight Chris Eubank Jr. But obviously, because of what's happened before, Dillian, it seems like Shevin, Matchroom haven't even told Dillian they were gonna cancel the fight. It seems like, and I find that, guys in the chat, if you think that's bizarre, press 1. But if you listen to Dillian's statement here, Dillian's statement indicates that Matchroom never told him they were going to cancel this fight. He's saying he just found out when everybody else found out. And he seems to be quite disappointed about that. And I think that's quite key, isn't it, Shevin? That he may have had the fight cancelled, but the promoter didn't tell him beforehand. That tells me he might be on his own. He might be on his own, Shevin, on this one. He might be out with the promoter. And we might hear stuff come out of Matchroom to say, Dillian White's not a contracted Matchroom fighter. He's a free agent. He's not a Matchroom fighter. He's a free agent. He's this and that. I've got a feeling that he might get thrown under the bus, Shevin. What do you think?
Yeah, so I did not know that, but hearing that news just now from you, I'm now about 99% sure that he's done with Matchroom, he's done with boxing. You think about losing a job, right? You go to a job or you leave a job, and you and the employer part ways for mutual concerns. No problem. Maybe later on in life, you might go back to that job, or go back to that company, or go back to that boss. However, if you have a situation where you walk into the job and there's a security guard standing outside asking for your phone and your ID badge, you're finished with that company. You will never work there again, and you probably never work in that industry again. And that's the situation with Dillian White. If they're not even telling him the fight's off, then they had talked with their lawyers, and he'll never fight in the match ever again. Which I think he's also, he has no value with any American promoter, and he's also, he's burned his bridge a little bit with Frank Warren, the way he acted. Not so much, even the performance of the Fury fight. No one cares. Everyone expected him to lose that fight, so there's no shame in losing to Fury. But two things: one, to come out and give the effort he gave, and to refuse to promote the fight. I can't imagine Frank Warren working with him. So there's no bridge to Queensberry. There's no bridge back to Matchroom, and he has no value in America where no one knows who he is. So, yeah, he's finished in boxing.
Wow. You think he's finished in boxing? I think he'll be back next September. That's me, honestly. I think.
I can see him being on some small show, but I can't see it with Matchroom. I can't see it with Queensberry, and no one in America knows who he is or cares about him. So if he's willing to go from being a pay-per-view guy to some undercard guy on someone's show, then absolutely, for less money. But he's done at the level that he was at before. He's definitely done that level. He'll never headline pay-per-view again.
Let me ask you about. Let me ask you a question, Shevin, quickly before I ask you about Anthony Joshua. Do you think he should be banned for life? If it turns out we don't know what he tested positive for, so there could be a big misunderstanding, right? But if Dillian White, let's just say he tested positive for D-ball again or something like that, do you think he should be banned for life?
I can't necessarily say he should be banned for life unless I'm going to also ban Povetkin for life and Ortiz for life and a dozen other fighters for life. I think you and I shared this notion that PEDs allegedly, possibly, maybe, but not sure of. I heard, not sure of, that I know for sure that any of these fighters have ever taken drugs, nor we suggest they have or have not. But it's a part of the sport. As far as him being banned for life, unlike other people, my energy doesn't change. So I'm not going to say one fighter should get this punishment and someone else in life with the same conduct should not get that punishment, because people who enact ideologies like that in any facet of life are simplistically operating from they're wading in a pool of narcissism. Anyone that changes the rules, one rule for one person, another rule for your mates, people like that, I have no time for them in sport or in life. And I'm not like that, so no, he should not be banned for life. However, he should be able to continue his career in box with whomever would pay him. I believe in an open and free market. But I just can't see anyone of note or any promotional company of value offering Dillian a payday or an opportunity, because, he's 36 years old, he's not a draw. I can't see it.
Sorry about that. Let me ask you about Anthony Joshua. Shevin, Anthony Joshua's career as it stands. First and foremost, let me ask you. I know you're one of the biggest Wilder fans out there. Can you see a fight between him and Wilder happening in December now that he's not fighting Dillian White?
I can't see a fight with him and Wilder happening until Wilder's definitely, probably past 40 years old. We saw Bear Hearn say it several years ago. Definitely not in December. What they're saying now in January, which I told everyone that will listen, there's no way in hell that Al Heyman and PBC or American Television Network are going to allow Deontay Wilder to fight on DAZN. There's no way in hell that Eddie Hearn is going to allow Anthony Joshua to fight on Showtime or Fox. Also, for the 1,000th time, you cannot do a fight on U.S. pay-per-view at 5 p.m. during college football, college basketball season, because I don't care if you put Muhammad Ali in the ring with Jack Johnson and Mike Tyson in a cage fight, no one in America will watch it because they'll be watching American team sports. The business doesn't make sense. So that fight was never going to happen anyway. So, no, he's not fighting Wilder because he's not fighting on Fox or Showtime, and Wilder's not going to fight on DAZN. And if he was to fight, everyone says, but it's Saudi Arabia, and they have money, and I'm sure they have money. However, they can have all the money in the world, but they and their money are not going to be able to cure the problem of, Deontay Wilder's not going to fight on DAZN. It's not going to happen. So that fight's not happening, and it was never going to happen.
Anthony Joshua's career over the last couple of months, Chevron. He's now going to be in a fight with possibly... these are names that have been banded around. Nothing's official, Chevron, but they're talking about Chisora. They're talking about Dempsey McKean, Gerald Washington, Otto Wallin. Andy Ruiz has thrown his hat in the ring, but I think we all know Andy Ruiz can't fight him because he's contracted with Al Heyman. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, his career's done too.
What do you think about Anthony Joshua, man? Like, where does he go from here? Because he came off a fight with Jermaine Franklin that nobody really gave a shit about. That fight struggled to sell out. And now it looks like, and it's not guaranteed he'll fight Chevron next week. It's not guaranteed. They're trying to find an opponent, right? But it's still possible that AJ might have to have his fight cancelled, right? And he won't be fighting this week, right? But if he does fight, it's looking quite likely that he's going to fight somebody who's not up to the usual sort of standard of opponent that we're used to seeing AJ fight. What do you think about where that leaves him going forward? Because it looks like he's shafted. It's another 3-4 month camp in it that he's effectively wasted, possibly, and he's not going to be getting a top level opponent to get in the ring with Chevron.
Yeah. So the thing is, and this is kind of concerning for me in terms of not necessarily so much what I think of Anthony Joshua or where he's at right now in his career, but where Eddie Hearn and Matchroom think of him in terms of his career. I like the idea of a Gerald Washington fight or a Hrgovic fight, and simply because it's the same ideology behind the Dillian White fight, although I rate Hrgovic a little bit more than Dillian White. If Joshua can't knock out Gerald Washington, just like if he can't knock out Dillian White, it's hanging the gloves time. And that's kind of what the Dillian White fight was, right? For Matchroom and Joshua to determine, hey, is it, what do we have left here? And I think Dillian White, Gerald Washington, at this point in their careers, are kind of the same guys. They're upper-level journeymen. So I wouldn't mind the Gerald Washington fight because they'll let us know Joshua goes in there and finishes Washington in a couple of rounds, just like he should have filled in Dillian White in a couple of rounds. And if he does, maybe there's a big fight out there for him later on down the line. And if he does not, then there's not. However, I don't think they're going to make the Hrgovic fight for the same reasons I heard you said as well. But just right now, if they're not going to make, or they're afraid to put Anthony Joshua in the ring with a guy who just lost to a 40-year-old Zhilei Zhang, then Matchroom, they already think that Anthony Joshua's done at the top table. They think he's done. They won't put him in the ring with Hrgovic. They think he's finished. And if they think he's finished, then who am I to tell them otherwise? So I've always thought that JJ probably had about 1 or 2 more fights left in his career, which is going to be Dillian White, and it was not going to be Fury, it was not going to be Wilder, but that next fight after Dillian White, it was going to have to be someone with the pulse. It was going to have to be. And that person, whomever that person is or was, I don't know who that person is, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, I really think they really, really, really should do everything they possibly can to make that Washington fight. Because Gerald Washington serves the same purpose that Dillian White would have served. A past-it journeyman that Joshua should be able to knock out. If he can't knock him out, if he loses or goes 12 rounds with the Washington, we know he's finished. So I think that Washington serves the same temperature meter that Dillian White would have served. So I think that there's a chance. But if they cancel the fight altogether, or if they do I can't, that Rockman stuff can't be true.
No, that can't be. I do not believe that. That would be.
Yeah, if they gonna make some guy outside the top 30, you got away with it one time. I understand you're off 2 losses to Franklin. Cool, whatever. You cannot do that in back-to-back fights. Because doing something like that also, we all know that fight's not going to sell, whoever it is. It just makes a fight with guys like Fury or a fight with guys like Wilder even further from possibility. Because you know what Fury brings to the table. He's going to have this massive fight with Francis Ngannou. He's not going to step into a ring with Joshua and give Joshua jack shit in terms of a split after something like that. So to put AJ in a fight with someone that's just not going to sell, that he can't knock out, you're kind of waving the white flag on ever having because the reality is there's no big fights for AJ left in his career except versus Fury or Wilder. If you put him in the ring right now with someone that doesn't look well, doesn't do well, the Fury and the Wilder fight are out the window. Ever happening? They're never going to happen. I don't think either fight happens right now. There's still a slight chance that Joshua will look good against someone, but if they're afraid to put him with Hrgovic, he might be finished too.
Let me just say one last thing before you go, Chef. In terms of selling, right? You're looking at it from a perspective of DAZN, yeah? DAZN, obviously, we all know they need subscribers. We all know they need eyes on a product. We all know that Anthony Joshua is being paid astronomical amounts of money, yeah? He's not being paid. He's been paid guaranteed money up front, as far as I'm aware. Somebody let me know if I'm wrong about that. They need an opponent that's going to get people to tune in and watch, right? They need an opponent that's going to get people to tune in and watch. For me and guys in the chat, right, and Chevin, all have your say now. The only opponent for me that's going to get viewers to tune in and watch at that time of day is Chisora. He's the only one. I don't believe that people are going to tune in en masse to watch Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin. I don't see it. I could be completely wrong if I'm wrong. I don't see it. I don't think
it's a bad matchup.
Gerald Washington, any of them. I think the only one that can do it is Chisora. He's the only one because he's a known quantity. The British public know him. He's topped the bill already. I'm not saying it's a major fight, but he's the only one who has that kind of UK brand recognition, Chevin. But outside of him, Chevin, I just think any of these other names, these Dempsey McKeans, these fucking, even Filip Hrgovic, and these kind of fighters, I'm just not sure. Filip Hrgovic, after no build-up, no education to the public about who he is, Chevin, to me, it can only be Chisora and somebody else, and it's sad to say. Go on, Chevin. Give me your opinion on that. To me, I could be wrong, but I think from a DAZN perspective, if we want eyes on this product, yeah, and if we want to sell pay-per-view and actually make some money back and not get hosed on this, it has to be someone the British public know. So it has to be Chisora. And also, I'm telling you, I feel sick for saying this, but people in the chat are saying Dave Allen. Honestly, I think Dave Allen might make more sense than someone like Joe Wood, because I just don't think people know who a fucking Washington is. I don't think they care who an Otto Wallin is, but I could be wrong about that. But I think it has to be someone the public knows. Sorry, Chevin, please jump in.
I think obviously the British public would know Chisora is a proven commodity over in the UK, and you guys would know that way better than I would. But let's not forget the one name you're not saying, and you know where I'm going with this. Luis Ortiz. That would be an interesting fight because he would pull up on short. This is what I want for Joshua right now, honestly, all jokes aside. Someone that AJ's hardcore boxing fans know who that guy is, and or that guy is a common opponent of Tyson Fury and or Deontay Wilder that AJ could knock out. And that would be Ortiz, Washington, or Wallin. I want to say no to Wallin just because I think Wallin could outpoint AJ to the point where he can make it a 12-round fight. And AJ cannot, I repeat, he cannot have another 12-round fight, okay? Because right now, that's something I was thinking about. I was mentioning on Twitter yesterday. If Anthony Joshua has a 12-round fight, right, versus whomever it is, and he wins, I don't care what kind of masterclass he puts on. I don't think people realize he will have had 2 knockouts in his last 9 fights. Okay? I repeat, he will have had 2 knockouts in his last 9 fights. 2 of those knockouts would have been versus 39, 40-year-old, 50-year-old fighters. Okay? So when you have a guy who is a muscle-bound bodybuilder that you've been selling as Conan the Barbarian, which has worked, which has been great, and that guy has 2 knockouts in his last 9 fights, the sale is over, okay? The sale is finished. So the only guys I think that he can, I'm sure, I hope, that he can knock. I like Washington more than Chisora, because I'm almost sure he'll knock Washington out. I'm not sure he knocks out Chisora. Chisora is a durable guy, and we know they're friends. So how hard is he going to go versus Chisora? So
Just to say, Shevin, if you can't knock out Chisora, you should retire in the middle of the ring. And I just want to check your view on that. If Anthony Joshua steps to the ring of Chisora and fails to knock him out, and that fight goes 12 rounds, you should retire in the middle of the ring. Carry on, Shevin, because we'll keep going. Hazim Rahman has appeared to confirm that these. I don't know if he's doing this for hype. My headphones have gone out, so I can't hear you, Shevin, at the minute. But just go without me. I will get this up on the screen. This is Hazim Rahman on the right-hand side of the screen, appearing to indicate that the stories are true. That can't be right. That can't be right. But anyway, Shevin, carry on. I'm going to get you on in the background, and then I want to ask you about Jarrell Miller, because I think that's a great shout. But carry on, Shevin, while I get my sound sorted.
Yeah. The thing about Chisora, I agree with you. If you can't knock Chisora out, then he needs to retire. I'll remind you, and I'll remind anyone in the chat as well, while I think it's possible that Anthony Joshua could knock out Chisora, I want people to understand he did not knock out Jermaine Franklin. He did not come close to knocking out Jermaine Franklin. He also went 12 rounds of Joseph Parker, a guy who was dropped by Derek Chisora. So I bring that up all to say that it is a very possible world that Derek Chisora goes 12 rounds on Anthony Joshua. That's not a crazy thing. And I agree with you, though. If that happens, he's finished. So that's why I lean Washington, because I'm sure he'll knock Washington out. I'm not 100% sure he will knock out Chisora. They cannot put him in the ring with a guy that has a lower probability of Joshua knocking him out. And those guys are Wallen. He could lose to Hrgovic, so they're not doing Hrgovic. That's Wallen, a durable Chisora. I think Washington, of those 3 guys, is the most likely guy to get knocked out, because I don't think he's as durable as Derek Chisora is. So I would say Washington. Put him in with Chisora. They go 12 rounds. Listen, Chisora went, 11 rounds with Tyson Fury? Because Fury played with him? If he went 11 rounds with Fury, he can definitely go 12 with Anthony Joshua. And if that happens, Joshua's finished.
Jarrell Miller?
Jarrell Miller, I would love that fight. However, I'm someone that
I think that's a great shout.
I always thought that Joshua would beat the living fool out of Jarrell Miller. I never rated Jarrell Miller. I always thought he would beat the snot out of Jarrell Miller. But like you said, I wonder if they do that with Miller, how Matchroom is going to look with the whole Conor Benn thing, and the thing just happened with Dillian White, allegedly, possibly, maybe, but I'm not sure, not confirmed, not accusing that they have or have not. The things that happened with Conor Benn, the things we just saw with Whyte, can they really, really make a fight with Miller? I mean, that's going to look bad. But I don't think they care about that. But that's a sellable fight. That fight will sell because Miller will sell it. So Miller's the first choice if they're willing to let bygones be bygones. Second choice for me is Washington, because I'm sure Joshua would knock him out. I'm not doing Chisora, and I'm not doing Wallen, because Joshua would probably beat both of them, but there's a good chance he goes 12 with both of them. And going 12 with one of those guys is the same as losing.
Shevin, give us your final thoughts on the whole situation.
The whole situation is bad. It's very embarrassing. I feel bad for for Anthony Joshua in the sense that I know this fight was trying to set him up, not for a Wilder fight. I didn't think he was going to fight Wilder, but it was going to set him up at least to sell another big fight after this. I still think it's salvageable, but they got to put him in the ring with someone that either sells, which is Miller, or someone that he has a high likelihood to knock out, which is Washington. Anything else, I mean, boy, anyone else is just really bad. It's really bad, and that would mean that Joshua's career is pretty much over a little bit before I thought it would end.
All right, Chev. Really appreciate it as always, my brother. Really appreciate it. Check your DMs, man. Check your DMs. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Does anybody else want to call in and have their say on Whyte failing, adverse finding from Dillian White? And anything else in regards to Anthony Joshua? If anybody wants to have their say, now is the time to call in. Tony must really be on the what's that shit they give? What's that shit they give people who are what's it called? Not cortisone. What's that? I had my missus on it when she was messed up, when she was in pain. What's that fucking drug they give them? Tony must be high as a kite because he thinks Eileen is going to do something with Anthony Joshua. Tony, I've got a boat and pick with you on that. Who's I am? This name rings a bell. Who is it? You are live, sir. Hello.
Hello. How's it all going?
Hello. Have you called him before? I can't remember the name, but you ring a bell.
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times. Okay. Go on then. Let's hear your opinion, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna ramble on here, just some thought I had. Feel free to throw any questions at me. But I actually had tickets for this fight.
No, you
and
ramble on as much as you want.
I'm not, if I'm honest, this might sound a bit ironic, but I'm not the biggest fan of AJ. I just find it quite hard to relate to him. He just goes on with a lot of his philosophical bullshit, which I mean, I get why there's mass appeal to it, but honestly, doesn't really do it for me. But for me, at the stage he's at in his career, and obviously after his successive losses to Usyk, I thought this was actually a really good fight for him. I thought with the history between him and Dillian White, the fact that he's obviously come off that laboured win against Franklin, I thought it was I just thought it was a good matchup. And I know we don't get the fights that we want as boxing fans, but at the same time, realistically, if AJ wasn't going to fight Wilder or Fury, who else was there really for him to fight? And I thought, you know what, he has done a lot for boxing, and this fight, it'd be a long story short, I managed to get tickets through O2 Priority, so I didn't have to pay resale prices for them. And I thought, yeah, you know what, it'll be a good show at the O2, nice night out in the summer. But yeah, I'm just disappointed because I actually bought 6 tickets and I sold 4 of them and kept 2 for myself, and now I don't even know if I'm going to make any money from them anymore. Because
can I jump in? So can you hear
yeah,
me?
of course.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I want to ask you, because you're a ticket seller. You got the news. So guys, this man this morning has bought 6 tickets to Whyte versus AJ, and obviously he's now got the news this morning. And to be honest, like, we all should remember that, because for people like me who like to watch these shows at friends' houses, like, it's easy for us to have a good laugh at this kind of thing. But for people who have actually bought tickets, booked trains, booked hotels, and booked things, this is a fucking mess. I want to ask you. You carry on talking about whatever you want to talk about, but I want to ask you. Is there any other opponent? Are you still going to go? You've sold these tickets to other people. Are you anticipating now people wanting to hand these tickets back to you, or because the fight that you advertised is now no longer on? What's going to happen with that? Are you still going to go to the event? What are your plans?
No, it's a very good question. I was going to come onto it because for me, there is no one else that they can realistically get in at 1 week's notice that will make me, just to put it out there, I bought the cheapest seats. They're about £70 a ticket. Like, that's a lot for a ticket. It's not cheap. And bearing my knees are in row U right at the back. No one else I would be willing to pay AJ.
No, I was listening. So there's nobody else. And
at a friend's house, but I wouldn't pay. Oh, what was that? Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It was just, you were just breaking up a little bit there, but that's fine. So you're saying there's nobody else. So let me say a Chisora. Would that fight make you turn up? If that could happen, Chisora. He's the best opponent I can think of. Is there any name that you can think of all the names we're mentioning? I know you're saying there's nobody that would make you go, but can I ask you a quick question? Best case scenario for this fight, like let's say you're being forced to go, you have to go, and you're going to have to watch some boxing on that night. If you had to pick between like a Michael Hunter or a Martin Bakole or a Derek Chisora or a Dempsey McKenna or a Joel Washington, what would be the best case scenario for you as a punter out of this situation? We can't hear you, brother. You've definitely gone quiet. You still there? Brother, we've lost you here. I can't hear you. So I'm pretty sure, guys in the chat, can you hear? I'm pretty sure you've gone. What I'm going to do, yeah, he's just dropped the line. But brother, call back. He had a bit of a, hopefully he's all right there. Someone should call the Samaritans because this man bought fucking 6 tickets to a fight that ain't taking place. Right. I think he might call back when he's ready. See, this is the thing, yeah. We do have people who call in, who have bought tickets. We've had people call in on our live fight nights. We've had people calling from the stadium and call in on their way out from the arena. So we do get quite a diverse caller base that call in. And that was very, very interesting. I was very, very keen actually to hear more. So if you're there and you can call back when you've got a better signal, please do. Because I'm interested from anybody who's bought tickets to this event to understand, you know, what are you going to do with it? And Richard says here, £420 plus booking fees, plus travel, hotels, whatever, just for the cheapest seats at an event, which has just fallen through. Mate, let me tell you right now, it's squeaky bum time if you spent money on this event, isn't it? It is absolutely squeaky bum time. And this is why it's important to discuss opponents, because, you know, we might sit here and have a laugh and a joke about Joel Washington, but this guy spent fucking 400-500 fucking quid. If I spent 400-500 quid, yeah, for Anthony Joshua versus Dillian White, and I turn up at the O2, and you give me this crap on which I cannot, I still refuse to believe that this. I just do not believe this is true. Somebody should get onto Eddie Hearn ASAP if this is true, that they've made an offer to Hazim Rahman. I just do not believe that would ever. Let me ask you guys a question. Is that a worse fight than Fury and Ngannou, or am I smoking crack? I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but what would you guys say about that? Well, Fury's a champion, so I say Fury's probably worse, isn't it? Because he's a champion. But bloody hell, this ain't too far away, is it? This cannot be right. Anthony Joshua versus Hazim Rahman Jr. absolutely cannot be. That cannot be true. That just can't be. That is just so bad. That is just one of the worst fights I've ever seen. That can't be right. That has to be certified bullshit. Right, he's back in now. He's coming back in. So we're back to, hopefully he's got a better signal this time. And he's just popping back in. He's in the lobby. So when he's ready, he'll put back in a sec. But just want to guys get your opinion on that. This can't be true. And if anybody has information about that, like Eddie Hearn comes out and says these are lies, please let me know. Because I can't believe that story is true. Right, IM's back here. Hopefully you're on a better signal now, mate. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, you know, my phone locked and I didn't realize I was rambling on for
It's fine, mate. It's absolutely fine. What I was going to say to you is this. So where we left it was this, right? Where we left it was this. So we understand that you're not interested in going to the event. I'm telling you, I'm asking you a question. If, let's say you're forced to go to the event, right? You absolutely have to go. You're forced to go to this event. What is the best case opponent, the best case realistic opponent that you can come up with? So if you had to watch, would it be Chisora? Would it be a Michael Hunter? Would it be an Otto Wallin? Just give me some of the best choice opponents that you can think of if you had to go. And he's dropped off again. It is what it is. It is what it is. Unbelievable. Let's have a look. Let's go to the chat for a bit. To be honest, Whyte was going to be fireworks. Are you back for good now? Like, take that.
I'm froze. I'm sorry. I accidentally pressed something like that.
Don't make me start singing Take That lyrics.
I did hear your question.
Okay, go on, answer it then. Let's hear it.
I'd say in a boxing sense, honestly, I like to see him go up against Wallin because I think Wallin gave Fury a good fight. I don't think he's really had many opportunities since that fight, and he could be like from a purely boxing sense. I think that would be a decent fight. Commercially, I think I heard Joseph Parker's name flying around earlier. I mean that. I think this new version of Joseph Parker that doesn't just dance around the ring, actually, like the Parker we saw against Chisora, that I wouldn't mind if I was forced to go to the fight. I mean, I guess I'd have to just suck it up. I mean, let's be honest, whatever Eddie decides to dish out to us, we don't really have much choice, assuming we can't get refunds. But yeah, I mean, probably some selection of Chisora just for the commercial reasons and the hype. Parker, if he can bring that aggressive style that he's developed over the last few years, or from a purely boxing perspective, I'd say Otto Wallin, just to see how that fight may go. I think it might be quite an interesting one. Anyone else? I mean, Miller would probably be quite funny, but it'd be quite ironic if Miller ended up on this card, given the situation back from 2019. So I don't really expect that.
Let me ask you again. I'm not trying to railroad you into saying anything bad about Dillian White. I genuinely just am interested to hear your opinion as just a regular boxing fan who goes to events. It's another issue with Dillian White and a failed test. Just give me anything that comes to your head.
Yeah, no. Honestly, I think he's done in the same way that I think Miller was done when he tested positive in the lead up to the AJ fight. I can't see much out there for White. Like in terms of this fight, I think and not fair play to White. I think this was his last big payday, and fair play to him, he got it. I expected him to get smoked, but I mean, at least he secured it. But I really don't think there's anything else out there for him, as in not big time anyway. And as you guys were saying earlier, I think this is his third doping or his third positive test. It's and I think what's worrying, I mean, I know you spoke a lot about Conor Benn in recent times, but let's be honest, pretty much all of them are probably on something, and it's just who can get away with it. And yeah, it's it just goes to show how corrupt boxing is. It's a shame, because I know everyone in this chat loves this sport. I love this sport, but unfortunately, it really is just arguably the most corrupt sport out there. So yeah, I think White's finished. I think he was on the decline anyway. I watched his fight against Franklin, and even though AJ didn't put up, the difference between AJ and White for me is that AJ beat Franklin decisively. It wasn't an exciting fight, but he did beat him conclusively. White, honestly, I'm no expert when it comes to scoring fights, but it could have easily gone the other way. I'll leave it at that. Franklin wouldn't have been lucky to have got the W. So after his knockout against Fury and then the fight against Franklin, I really don't think there's much out there for White. His decline has been very sudden. Fair play to him. He got his world title shot that I think he deserved, given how long he'd been WBC mandatory for. But yeah, I don't think
1,000 days. So
too long. And then again, you know, even from the other side, another example of how corrupt boxing is. I mean, he should never have had to wait that long for his shot. But yeah, I think White's finished. I really do. I don't think there's anything out there for him now. Not big time anyway. Do
you think, just out of interest, I know you answered this question, but we just last question. We read Dillian White's statement, and it appears that Matchroom didn't tell him directly, right, that the fight was off. According to his statement, it appears from reading it that he found out at the same time we did, because he said in the statement, and I've just found out that this fight's been called off without me having a chance to prove my innocence, basically. And I just wanted to ask you pretty much the same question, but would you take that if I've interpreted that correctly, all right, and that's correct, would you then interpret that as a sign that Matchroom are going to wash their hands here with Dillian White? They're not going to do a Conor Benn here. This is not like a young fighter who's undefeated in a peak now, and they're going to let Dillian have it now. What do you think?
100%. I don't have anything to add aside from that. I think it was interesting, actually. I was under the impression that he was a Matchroom fighter, but it doesn't seem like he actually is. So yeah, I really think they'll be very quick to just wash their hands off him, and I don't think any big promoter will touch him ever again. And I think I'm sure you won't mind me talking about this, but I just think DAZN as an entity is just shit. I really do. And I think there's not much out there for DAZN really. And I think AJ is really their last sort of beacon of light, because again, it's really unrelated, but I just thought I'd just come on here and just air some views that and give some perspective that maybe others may not have had. But I signed up to DAZN when it first launched in the UK. It was only £2 a month, and for that first month there was Canelo Alvarez against Callum Smith, and Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell within the same month. So I was like, you know what? Even if I just signed up for 1 month, that's very good value for £2. And it seemed like Canelo's fights were going to stay on DAZN. So I thought, you know, let me just keep this. It's definitely worth it. But the thing is, outside of Canelo's fights, so he fought 3 times on DAZN. Callum Smith, Avni Yildirim, and Billy Joe Saunders. I wasn't using DAZN outside of that. Everything else on there was a shambles. It was not worth even logging into the app for. Then it went up to £8 a month. And when I found out that his fight against Caleb Plant was on BT Sport and not DAZN, I just cancelled it. And they really have nothing to offer. This is from someone who was subscribed for about 8 months, admittedly only for £2 a month, but still. And I just sometimes check just out of interest what they have to offer. There's nothing on there. It is so bad. And I think if you look at AJ now, this would have been a good fight. Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. last October, that was a good fight, I think, for DAZN. Obviously a lot of commercial interest and casual interest, but we've literally seen both of those buckle. And what other big fights have DAZN had to offer in the last I don't know how long? It's I don't know what they're doing in America in as much detail, but in the UK they really are just a shambles. I mean, they'll still probably survive, and that's fine, but they just aren't offering anything at all. It's
I agree with you, and I agree with every word you said there, and I think that's the reason why that this fight ain't getting cancelled, mate. I really do. I think that's the reason. I don't think they could afford to, mate. To be honest with you, I think AJ has to get out, mate. He has to, and that's what's going on.
Yeah. I don't think there's much really out there. No, but except for, as I said, the Wilder and Fury fights. We'll see if it happens. I hope he fights Wilder in December. Admittedly, about 4 or 5 years too late, but still a good fight. And it's a shame it's come to this. But I guess as boxing fans, we just have to appreciate the fights when they come, because you just never know what we may or may not get. So
very good point.
Hopefully next weekend, if the event does happen, we'll get something half decent. But for me, nothing will be as big as AJ White 2. For me, that was it wasn't an even matchup, but it was a good fight with good hype. And yeah, it's not going to happen now, but is what it is.
Brother, I really appreciate you calling in, my man. Call in anytime, man. No, I really do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And
of course.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always.
Drop in soon, brother. Drop in soon. Peace out. Does anybody else, if anybody else wants to call and have their say, I thought, what did you guys think? I think I Am was excellent there. So you heard there from a guy who's a ticket, who's purchased fucking 60 tickets to go and see a fight that he seemed to allude to the fact that at the minute you can't get a refund. I don't know if that's the case or not, but let me know if you guys know if are refunds available or not or whatnot. I don't really go to make a habit of going to these top boxing events, so I don't really know about this kind of thing. But let me know if the refunds are available. But seemed quite deflated there. Seemed a bit deflated there. And like I said before, you know, it's not that Joshua versus Whyte 2 was some amazing fight, but fuck man, you know, when you're staring Joshua versus Dempsey McKean down the barrel of a fucking gun, then yeah. You spent 400 quid, yeah, to get Wilder versus to see Joshua versus Whyte 2, and all of a sudden you're getting fucking AJ versus Dempsey McKean down the barrel of a gun. It is squeaky bum time. There is no fucking question about that. Simon Jordan is attacking Eddie Hearn again. He's now saying here, remember when Eddie Hearn told me he couldn't contractually cancel the Ben Eubank fight? Funny, doesn't seem to have that issue cancelling the Joshua versus Whyte fight. Funny how bullshit ends up floating to the surface. Listen, I think Simon Jordan's barking down the wrong tree there. And again, I think that he shouldn't. That's not the that's not the tree to bark down. I think the right tree to bark down is to ask about what's going on with UCAD and do they have jurisdiction over Conor Benn. Shevon's back for some reason. What the fuck do you want?
Quick question. I'm glad you just mentioned Conor Benn. I meant to ask you, but I forgot to ask. Do you think, now that you mentioned Conor Benn, do you think they're going to see him, or Matchroom is going to be able to put him in a fight anytime early next year, or what's going to happen in that situation in the near future?
With Conor Benn?
Yes.
I expect Conor Benn back in the boxing ring ASAP. That's what I expect. I don't think Conor Benn's going to serve a ban, and I think he'll be back in the ring ASAP. But the Dillian White thing,
has absolutely fucked Matchroom on this, and I tell you why. Because now what they've got is they've got 2 drug cases for 2 fighters that were fighting on their promotions at the same time. And what people are going to do is they're going to compare the cases, yeah, and they're going to compare the way the cases are being handled. And what they're going to notice is, and this is what you're seeing from Simon Jordan already, right? And these are going to be problems for Matchroom. They're going to look at how did you handle, yeah, the Dillian White case versus how have you handled the Conor Benn case. And I think what's going to happen here, and I could be wrong, is that Conor Benn's going to get off, but I think Dillian's going to get thrown under the bus. Now, whether Dillian gets cleared or not, I don't know. But I think you're going to see a big difference in the way Dillian's test was handled by Matchroom versus the way Conor Benn's test was handled by Matchroom. And I've got a funny feeling that Dillian might be about to see what the underside of a bus looks like. And I think people are going to turn around and ask a lot of questions. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think Conor Benn will fight again. But I think the bad thing for Matchroom is now they've got two fighters that were due to fight on their promotions have now failed drugs tests, right? They're now dealing with 2 simultaneous cases of fighters failing VADA tests. People are now naturally going to look and compare how have Matchroom handled both the cases. And that's why you see guys like Simon Jordan already looking at these cases and thinking, the way you're handling this stuff doesn't add up, right? And people are going to go back and say, well, what did he say when Conor Benn failed versus now? What's he saying about Dillian White? And they're going to find inconsistencies. Sorry, Shevin, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. That led me to another, I guess, to answer something that you posed earlier that I think I failed to address in terms of Dillian White being on the outs with Matchroom opposed to Conor Benn. I think it's an age issue. Dillian White will be 36 years old this year, and Conor Benn is, 23, 24 years old. So you have 10 years and probably 15, 20 fights with Conor Benn, and you have, at the very most, 1 or 2 fights left with Dillian White. Someone has to fall in the axe for Matchroom, and someone has to be made, at least for the optics, someone has to be made an example of for them to look like they have this turn on PD cheats, allegedly, maybe possibly not accusing anyone of doing or not doing any kind of PEDs. However, they're going to have to look like, hey, we will not stand for this. We are taking a stand. No longer on our shows will we tolerate such disgusting behavior and danger. He could have killed AJ. So they have to look good, right? And for them to look good, they're going to have to turn their back on someone that may be possibly, allegedly, have an adverse finding. And that person they're going to turn their back on is going to be the fighter with the lowest ROI. And the person with the lowest ROI, based on the fact that White has 1 or 2 fights left, is going to be Dillian White. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to get much from him anyway. So they'll definitely try to make an example out of him for the optics of looking like they have some kind of boxing integrity.
Shevin, you can stay if you want. I'm just going to bring Abdul in, Shevin. You're welcome to
stay.
Sure.
Oh, yes. Love Abdul. Please. I'm in the background. I'm listening. Go ahead.
No worries. Abdul.
Yo. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you, the Butcher. Abdullah the Butcher is here, guys. Give me a 3 in the chat if you're about that, Abdullah. Jesus, Abdul. Every time you call up, man, this sport's a joke. British boxing's a disgrace, Abdul. Give us your thoughts on Dillian White, Abdul.
Where do we start? I mean, he's done his thing for years. He's maxed his ability, you have to say. He's done well for himself financially. He just wanted that one last payday. And now it's been taken away from him. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel sorry for him in a way, but you shouldn't be messing around with whatever those things are. He's got a whole team that will check everything, who should have checked everything. And I don't know what his excuse will be. I don't know.
Could be eggs, Abdul. Could be eggs. We think, Abdul, I don't know if you heard his statement, Abdul, but in Dillian White's statement, I'm trying to find it on the screen, but in his statement, he said, I'm going to try and read it in a minute, but he said that he only just heard the fight was being cancelled, basically when we heard the fight was being cancelled. So it says here, let me just quickly read this one line to you, It says here, right, I have also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before the decision was taken, right? So it seems like Matchroom haven't even spoken to him and told him they were going to cancel the fight. They just cancelled it as soon as they found out he's gone adverse finding, which is very different to how they handled it with Conor Benn. Abdul, the question that we're asking tonight is, do you see that as possible evidence that Dillian's about to get thrown under the bus and that Matchroom have had enough of him?
I just think he was never the priority. It never was. He was, you know, it's just a situation that him and Eddie had that it was mutually beneficial. And this was the last time that they were going to probably utilize him. I don't think they were going to work with him further than this fight. If he got knocked out by AJ, that would have been curtains, and then he would have, you know, maybe some person who really believes in a prospect would have started hiring Dillian White as a test, just to see where their prospect is, and that's where he would have ended up. He would have went down from here. This is the highest. We won't go further than this. I agree with the previous callers who said that this is, you know, the end of Dillian White. Big time boxing. He's just gonna now transition to the gatekeeper position, or he retires. These are the two options for him. It's up to him, you know.
He's made a lot of money, Abdul, in his career, yeah. But if you look at the two biggest moments of his career that he'll always be remembered for, am I right in thinking, Abdul, that Dillian White, when we say what do we remember Dillian White for, will number one be allegedly failing a drugs test before fight of Anthony Joshua, and number two will be putting on an absolute stinker in the ring with Tyson Fury? Because that would be a shame, because he has actually achieved some things in the sport of boxing, considering that he came from kickboxing and took up boxing at a very, very late age. He actually did get to world level. But I'm saying, when you look at the peak of Dillian White's career, when you look back on Dillian White, would you say I'm right in thinking he's always going to be remembered for stinking the joint out against Fury and getting uppercutted and putting a highlight reel, and then failing a test before Anthony Joshua rematch? What do you think?
You know, with boxing, people forget stuff, to be honest with you. I mean, look at Canelo now. People are saying, oh, pound for pound. It's in everyone's pound for pound list. You know, they forget things. The boxing world, they forget things. Look at Roy Jones and all these people who are, you know, who are, you know, who've taken drugs before. Once you retire, suddenly, is rose-tinted lenses that people put on, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that fight. He was fighting, you know, what a great fight. So all of that will be forgotten. I don't think that people will bring up the drugs too much. The Tyson Fury one, yeah, that will probably hurt him a little bit, because he didn't really put up much of a fight. That was just pathetic. I don't know what he was doing. That was just embarrassing, because he was chasing Tyson. If you're going to chase someone, then at least fight. You know what I mean? It's like you chasing around the kid in school, and you're telling him, I want to fight you, I want to fight you. And the kid's like, I don't want to fight you. And you keep on pestering him. And in the end, it gets to the point where you fight, and then he knocks you out. You know what I mean? This is embarrassing.
Of course. Let me ask you about AJ's opponent now. So Abdul, the card is still going on. Let me ask you right now, do you think there's any point in carrying on with this card? The opponents that have been mentioned, Abdul, this Hazim Rahman Jr. thing, I cannot believe it's true.
No. He's undersized. Is he even a true heavyweight? The guy is so small.
That's bullshit. I don't believe that, right?
Yeah, he's not going to fight.
Let's go for the opponents. I think commercially, Abdul, the best one for DAZN to get people to tune into the pay-per-view, obviously he shouldn't be in there, because he's going to get put on he's going to get sent to the moon and possibly might never wake up again. But if you want to see the show, it's got to be Chisora. What do you think, Abdul? Yes or no to Chisora?
I don't think so. I think AJ has a lot of respect for Chisora. Chisora is like AJ's mentor. When AJ was coming up as an amateur, he used to look up to Chisora. He would watch Chisora sparring and things. So I don't think that he would fight Chisora, because obviously it's one thing sparring. They have sparred before, but when you're fighting, it's different now. You're looking to put away that person, and I don't think they would do that. Tyson Fury is a bit strange, where he's happy to put away his friends for a bit of cash, but I don't think AJ is that type of guy.
Right, next opponent, Abdul. You tell me, Abdul. But let's start with what names would you like to see? I know you're going to say Hrgovic, but that's never. If AJ does take on Hrgovic on a week's notice, I have to say he goes down as a legend in my books. But what names would
He
you
won't.
like to see, Abdul?
He won't take Hergovic, and I would have said someone like Bacoli, but they are familiar with each other. They've sparred many, many times. They're always taking photos with each other in camps. If you Google it, you'll see it. There's many photos of them in camp. So they're familiar with each other. I think if he's gonna fight someone, then he's gonna fight someone that he has sparred with. Michael Hunter, he sparred with. Bacoli, he has sparred with. Caballal, he has sparred with. I think even Gerald Washington, he has sparred with. So there's many fighters that he has had in camp that he has sparred with. I think he'll go for them once. I don't think he'll go for someone who's an unknown quantity. He has learned his lesson. I don't think he'll do that with them. Like do another Andy Ruiz situation where he gets someone he hasn't fought before. Learned his lesson. Because if he gets beat at this stage of his career, it's curtains. It's over for him.
Shevin said previously, Abdul, that, and I'll give you some names.
So I don't know who he's gonna fight. To be honest with you, I've hearing Gerald Washington, which I understand. It makes sense because Gerald Washington's ready. But then who does that leave? The opponent he's fighting, was it McKean?
Exactly. No, McKean's fighting Hergovic, but Chisora is supposed to be fighting Washington.
Chisora is fighting Washington. Okay, who's McKean fighting then? Is he on the same undercard, McKean?
Yes, Hergovic.
Hergovic and McKean. Okay, right. Because they're saying I've heard someone saying that if AJ fights Chisora, if AJ fights Washington, and then Chisora fights Hergovic, and, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. And then they wanted to make McKean face Fisher. That's what they're thinking. Or they were thinking Hergovic McKean. I think sorry, it was Hergovic McKean, Washington Fisher, and Chisora Joshua. So someone wants Fisher's career to end. They want him to fight Washington.
Abdul.
So what do you guys think? Do you think Chisora AJ, McKean Hergovic, Washington Fisher?
I think that Abdul. I think that Jesus Christ, man. I think that he won't fight Chisora for the same reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And because that, to me, because he's so familiar with Chisora and they're actually really good friends, and Chisora's kind of like his uncle, okay? Fighting Chisora for Anthony Joshua would be like being in a real fight versus your real uncle. And for him to fight Uncle Chisora, that's the potential. That fight has the potential to go 12 rounds. If Anthony Joshua goes 12 rounds with any of these journeymen, whether he wins or loses, he's finished. So I say put him in with Washington, because with Washington, he's going to finish Washington. He'll knock him out, or vice versa. But most likely, he'll knock Washington out. So I think Washington is also a common opponent with Wilder. Is also the best option because it's someone that Joshua should be able to knock out easily, and it's also someone that fight will not go 12 rounds, and it will be exciting. You put him in with Chisora, it can go 12 rounds, and he is finished.
Abdul, let me just ask Abdul, what about Jarrell Miller, Abdul? Jarrell Miller. Abdul, you there? Abdul, you've got... Oh, we can hear you now, Abdul.
I want that. I think it's... Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. Tell us about Miller and AJ.
I want to see it, to be honest with you. I think, like all of the boxing world, I wanted Sky to release the gloves are off with Miller and AJ.
Yeah, great point. I was thinking that, Abdul, from a promotional standpoint, the DAZN still has that gloves off between Miller and AJ, which they never released, which I've seen AJ say on several occasions that was one of the best gloves offs he's ever had in his career, and he wishes that he could release it. So the promotion is already there for Miller, Miller's a guy that he should beat. It will be an exciting fight. But like I was saying earlier, if they don't do Miller, just they're not going to do Hrgovic, then that tells me that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom are afraid to put Anthony Joshua in the ring with a non-top 20 heavyweight. And that means, in my opinion, that they think he's finished.
Mm. You know, if they're wary because a misstep here, it's the end. It's the end, you know. And they want to milk the cow, you know. The others are running dry, but they're still pulling on it. They're still trying to milk the cow, you know. So it's desperate times. Desperate times.
Abdul, just before we let you go, let me ask you, Abdul, just anything that comes to your mind, Abdul, about what's going on, the state of the match and the state of DAZN, the state of heavyweight boxing, anything that comes to mind here. Abdul, I don't believe that Anthony Joshua, I don't believe it'd be very wise for him to go from a fight with a Dempsey McKean or someone of that level to going into a fight with Deontay Wilder. So what I'm gathering from this story now is that I'm not expecting Anthony Joshua to fight Deontay Wilder in January or December anyway, because I just don't think you go from Dempsey McKean and Jermaine Franklin to jumping in the ring with Deontay Wilder. But I could be wrong on that, Abdul. But where is AJ's career going? And Abdul, I don't think the hype's there for his career anymore, like it was. Abdul, I remember when we used to cover his shows on Sky, and just, for me, Abdul, the buzz is gone, man. I don't know, Abdul, man. Anthony Joshua's career does seem to be petering out. Give us any thoughts that come to your mind, Abdul.
Yeah, you mentioned the buzz is gone, obviously, because there was a bit of excitement about, you know, he was a bit of an unknown quantity. We didn't know, but now we know exactly what he is. So the mystique is gone. The mysteriousness is gone. We know what he is now. And if you watch the Gloves of Off Dillian White episode with AJ, it's crazy, but it's like a lot of the stuff that Dillian White said has come to light, has become truth. It's crazy. You know, saying stuff like your heart will fail you and blah, blah, blah. And you think to yourself, no. At that time, you think, oh, this guy's talking nonsense. But now you look back at it and you see, you know what? A lot of the points Dillian White was making, we can see in front of our eyes now in 2023. So, you know, with regards to AJ, the excitement is gone, but he has to fight someone. The main thing is just to fight someone. It's not about fighting someone top, because he's already got more ring time than Deontay Wilder. When's the last time Deontay Wilder has fought?
Very true.
It's been a long time for Wilder. And AJ, if he fights, you know, next week, he has had 2 fights in that time. So I think both of them are on a similar level, to be honest with you, in terms of their activity levels. So why not? I think AJ's at the...
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, Abdul, but yeah, Wilder for the last 4 years has pretty much always been a very inactive fighter. But I will say this in terms of the whole ideology of his ring rust would somehow bring him down to a level of Joshua. Deontay Wilder did not fight for 2 years prior to Tyson Fury 3, and he delivered the greatest heavyweight performance most of us have seen in our lifetime.
Abdul's gone a little bit there, Sheva. Maybe you scared him off a bit, but I think Abdul had problems with signals. So, Abdul, brother, you can leave it there, or if you want to come back and say a few more things, you're welcome to do so. But I think Abdul's as great as ever, and I think that I do feel for Anthony Joshua. I do, Shevin, to be honest. I do feel for him because, you know, like I said before, yeah, I do, because that's a guy who hasn't got the time. I don't think he even has the... I could be wrong. I'm not even sure Anthony Joshua has the love for the sport that he does anymore. So I think that any time that he has left now, innit, we're in sort of overtime, innit, with AJ, innit? We're in sort of overtime with this dude, man. And these kind of things that are happening, I do feel for him, because I think it is going to be the end of his... It could be the end of his career. Like, let's go through final comments, Chev, and I'm going to read some comments out. If you want to say anything, say them. But these are final comments. Who the fuck is EJ? Would never let him throw the towel in, but I hope EJ retires. That crash has ruined him. Who is that about? Sorry. They're talking about Derek James. Antonio Tarver, I haven't seen it yet. Antonio Tarver apparently ripping into Derek James for his coaching or lack of coaching for Errol Spence against Terence Crawford.
Well, someone should ask Antonio Tarver about. Yeah, I saw that. Tarver was talking about not having your fighter prepared to perform, and I would pose to Antonio Tarver. Well, Antonio Tarver, can you please address not having your son prepared to perform in the boxing ring?
Very, very good. Very, very good. I think everybody can criticize from the outside, but it is what it is. Just, you know, I don't think Errol Spence Jr. should retire at all, by the way. Yeah, I don't think he's the same fighter anymore. Let's have a look here. Tony thinks Miller would beat AJ. Miller will leave a cheeseburger on AJ's back after he KOs him. I think that Miller for a round might be dangerous. Might be. Depends how much PDs he's got in his system at the time.
That's the thing I was saying earlier as well. And in terms of would Miller KO Joshua, I don't think so. But however, no matter what, Miller right now versus Joshua, I think you British guys in the chat, you guys let me know because I don't know your market. I'm assuming Miller AJ will probably sell more than Whyte, even on a 1 week's notice. So you get a fight that's going to sell big time. It'll do well, right?
I don't know about that, but I definitely think it does well, Shevin. But the thing is, if I can't allow that because I'd be a hypocrite. At the end of the day, you can't possibly put in Jerome Miller, who's failed every drugs test under the sun, as a replacement for a guy who's failed a drugs test. Okay, there's just no way. It's a shame. It's a shame, but it's just not fucking possible. All right, let's leave it there, Chev. It's been 2.5 hours. I'll chat to you on DM, Chev, in just a second, or on the Bird app, as we say, on the Birdman app. Guys, thank you. If we hear any more information, myself, it's a damn shame we couldn't get Tony on. You know, it's a real damn shame. You know what? The next thing I'm looking for is who is going to be AJ's next opponent. We'll hopefully find out the substance that Dillian White tested positive for, because we don't even have that information yet. And we do need to know what he tested positive for, because that's going to give us, Lord help Dillian White if it's D-Bowl again. Can you imagine if he tested positive twice for the same? It can't be D-Bowl. If it was D-Bowl again, go on.
I was going to say that you definitely have to go back live if they confirm that it's really Hassan Jr., Rahman Jr., if that is a real thing. I do believe he was on the verge of fighting Jake Paul or Logan Paul at 175, okay? This guy's not even a heavyweight. If they do that, Jesus Christ.
There's no way. It can't happen. I'm telling you, there's no way. Eddie Hearn is not stupid. He's Eddie Hearn's not a stupid individual. He's a lot of things, but he ain't that fight. Hazim Rahman ain't getting that fight. People like me would have a field day with that. Or it'd be too much. It'd be like Christmas coming all at once.
As it stands right now, Ultra, who is your number one guy you think is going? Who is going? They're not going to cancel the fight, by the way. The DAZN will lost way too much money. No. So who you the number one guy is Chisora? You think?
I can't pick one, but do you know what? I can't pick one. But you know what? Let me say it this way, right? And I'm always wrong. My predictions are terrible. Until Derek Chisora comes out and says he will not take this fight, that's what I'm looking to hear. I'm looking to hear Derek Chisora himself say, I ain't fighting AJ. Because I believe that if he's offered the fight, he'll take the fight.
Dark horse. I guess it just popped in my head. I'm semi-joking, but not really. Dark horse. I think you know where I'm going with this one.
It's not going to be Ortiz. If you say Ortiz, you never come back on the show.
It's not Ortiz. Dark horse. Dark horse. The man himself, a.k.a. Mr. Pony, a.k.a. Genuine, the Haymaker.
What the fuck are you on about? Haymaker. Oh, you're
David Hay.
David Hay. David Hay. He's got a heavyweight contest right now. Him versus about 6 of those bongos he's got fucking shacked up in Costa Rica. That's what he's going on. David Hay's got David Hay's in the middle of a 1 versus 3 in it in the middle of Costa Rica.
You leave David Jagged Edge Hay alone.
David Hay. All right, brother. Have a good one. Catch you in a sec. Yeah, I'll speak to you in a second. I'll speak to you in a sec. All right, guys. That's what we're going to be looking for. Who's going to be the opponent? Hopefully, Eddie Hearn's going to give us an opponent list. It looks like Eddie Hearn versus Simon Jordan is back on again because the two of them are arguing, and Eddie Hearn saying he'll be back on TalkSport on Tuesday to school Simon Jordan. He never schooled Simon Jordan the first time, but when you've got people listening to TalkSport who have got the IQ of a fucking goldfish, it is what it is. Boxing Underground is saying Huey Fury. Listen, if Huey Fury was actually in shape, I don't think that's a bad shout, because he's a guy who's looking to come back and make money from boxing. But we saw videos of Huey Fury on the pads, and I can probably show you them, but I bet I can't find them on Nitter. But we saw Huey Fury on the pads, and he looked absolutely dreadful. Like, he's a guy you can see. You talk about ring rust. I mean, this guy looks like he's been left in the fucking shed chair for about 6 months. I mean, Huey Fury looks really, 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 really ring rusty. And of course, when I search on Nitter, it shows me videos that are going all the way back to 2016. But he really, 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 really does thing. Abdul's back. What? Just about to close the show up, and here you are. What do you want, Abdul? Talk away.
No, I just wanted to say, as you said, AJ's lost the hunger. AJ strikes me as someone who has discovered something he's good at, but he's not really passionate about. He doesn't really like it. Does that make sense? And that's like many of us. We, most of us, we don't really work in something we're really passionate about. We're good at it, and we just get the bag. And I think that's where AJ is at now. He was never that passionate about it. Maybe when he was younger, he was more, willing to go to deep waters for it. But now that he's in his 30s and he's mellowed a bit, I don't think he wants to go to these deep waters. He's not naturally a fighter, naturally instinct. He doesn't have fighting instinct naturally. He's someone who doesn't have money.
I think, Abdul, he's a guy, AJ, to be honest, who needs to be fighting for titles. That's what I think part of the problem is as well. I think if he's not fighting for titles, or there's not the prospect of a title dangled right in front of him, I think he might find it difficult to get up for fights. What do you think about that?
He just doesn't enjoy fighting. We all see these fighters. There are some fighters who are talented, but there's fighters who are not as talented, but they love fighting. Look at Chisora. The guy loves fighting. And more than likely, once his career's hanged up, we'll hear about him fighting in a pub or something. We'll hear him fighting. You know what I mean? That's just, some people are like that, and some people are just, they're good at it. And I think AJ's at that. He's not like a Wilder. Wilder, I think, even though he's not really passionate about it, he just has that. He has a fighting instinct in him. Does that make sense? AJ is more of a like. He doesn't have fighting instinct in him, AJ. AJ is like more of necessity. Like, he'll have the fighting instinct to survive in the ring, because obviously it's dangerous. If you don't have that, then you can get hurt. So yeah, boxing is a crazy sport, to be honest with you. And with regards to the PED, I believe it's widespread, but some people are good at covering it up than others. It's certainly not a profession I would be letting my young boy going in. No way. It's absolutely a crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's a crazy. And I had the choice when I was younger, and I was, in my late teens, and a world champion was like, "Hey, I need, former world champion was like, come, let me train you up." And I just knew that. I said, no, I don't want to be. It's too dirty. I don't want to do it. So I respect everyone who gets in there. I don't really mock the fighters, to be honest with you. I know I have a little bit of a laugh on that, but in reality, they have my respect, because I wouldn't do that. What they're doing is crazy, and everyone's probably juiced to the gills, but everything is so technical now, and everything is so so well organized that the test won't get them now. So don't be surprised when people pop. That's just because they made a small error, but in the majority, I believe most of these guys are on something, if I'm honest.
I agree, Abdul. Abdul, let's sign out. We're out, guys.
No worries, man. All the best, guys.
All the best, guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.